Hey, and welcome to the sixth episode of Double Feature Horror Show with regular guests Haryan Gláeddyv and That Crime Guy, who are going to introduce themselves in a bit. I do have some interesting news in terms of developments on the old CPU front, and also interesting news on the old home front in terms of my chickens. Long-term viewers will know I've got a little flock of rescue hens, and thanks to some lifting of restrictions, we were able to rehome 3 new hens on the weekend. That was an absolute treat and a joy until last night when one of them would not go to bed, and eventually, after trying several coops, had to be brought in and given pride of place in the study. And I basically didn't sleep because I was up worrying about her all night. Get your mockery in now. I know that absolutely reeks of the Guardian, but you know.
Gay.
Yeah, I know. I deserve that one. I deserve that one. Luckily, you know, it's not my sort of very metropolitan elite sensibilities that are driving this whole thing. We do have more sensible people on board, including. Sorry, I'm stalling because I'm trying to switch it behind the scenes, including Haryan.
Oh, the Blood Evil Dead.
That's brilliant. I love that.
Nice. That is nice. That's good. Where did you get the I take it you got like a stock image of where I actually got my main thing from, because my ornament's missing on that poster.
You know, I've done that many memes of you.
Yeah.
I did that very interesting video that's your pinned tweet with the help of our other guest, who I'll mention in a second, and of course
Mr. Creamy Voice.
Yeah, I haven't been able to find your actual original avatar's armor, and it's been bothering me for where is your actual armor? Can you send it to me? Because I keep going for that one.
Yeah, I can send it you on Twitter after the show. Yes.
Okay.
I don't know how good it looks, but it's quite a small image, but I'm sure it'll be fine.
Okay, I'm gonna have I might go muting on my mic for a second, and I will need you guys to fill the time because I think I'm having another chicken situation. My partner has just brought in the same chicken and attempting to place her in a box where she can sleep, but the chicken has climbed up onto my partner's back. Yeah, this is an interesting situation. Fill some time, guys. Fill some time.
Introduce yourself, T.
Wait. No, don't introduce yourself quite yet.
Don't do that.
No, because everyone's expecting you to be a teabag, but that is not the case. You've rebranded, haven't you? Okay,
very nice.
Folks, I'm going to go off mic because I've got a chicken emergency. Wow. Keep talking. This is perfect timing.
That is special. That is incredible. Well, I mean, I still laugh. It was just a small change for the channel, but you're gonna have to send me. You have to send me that afterwards, proper horror show when she gets back, just because that's pretty good. So what up, my shillers? Yeah. How you doing?
Yeah, I was going to say as well. I don't. Is there a reference there that I'm missing? Because I was a sperm 20 years ago, as you nicely put on Twitter.
Oh, what you mean for that?
Yeah, for that.
Oh, for that crime guy. No, literally, as I said in my in my announcement video.
Yeah, sorry, I mean the picture, like with the red cap and the formerly Chucks.
I've got no idea. Formerly Chucks, because I'm assuming because of the laughs reference, Teabag who laughs. So formerly Chuckles, Chuck. I'm not sure about the cat though.
I tried to do a full Sneed thing and I couldn't, so I had to just give you the old Sneed cap.
Okay. I'm guessing that must be some sort of rap reference. I'm guessing.
No, okay. We need to catch you up on your Sneed lore. It's okay. It's all good. Okay. This is esoteric meme stuff. It's all good.
Okay.
Okay. So chicken update. I've managed to get said chicken in a box. Not very well. If they don't want to go somewhere, it's kind of hard to make them go somewhere. So, but it's managed now. It's all in hand. What a smooth one.
It's definitely different to cats, Cammy, or my cat.
Oh yeah.
You know, chickens.
Yeah, Cammy climbs all over Rose. It's very cute, but it can't be easy to stream while that's happening.
No.
No, but in fairness, that cat is absolute royalty. Okay.
Yeah.
Cammy
However,
post.
whilst chickens and cats can be quite loud, some animals are a bit more known for their silence.
Oh, I
Huh?
get it. I get it for the
See
film.
what I did there?
Yeah.
Just see what I did.
Yeah,
just a hint.
I thought that was pretty good. One of your better segues.
Thanks. Thank you. I appreciate that. So this question was asked in chat, and I thought it was kind of interesting. I didn't want to try and do it on the hoof because I thought it deserved a little bit of thinking about. And the question of is Silence of the Lambs horror is weirdly relevant because today all over horror Twitter there's been loads of discussion about Alien. I don't know if you guys caught that.
No.
Oh,
yeah,
okay.
I saw it.
Yeah, a load of people saying, is Alien horror or is it just sci-fi? And a big defiant, yes, it is. It's absolutely horror. And then here are all these other ones. The Friday the 13th franchise managed to get some shilling in for Jason X, which is far better than it has any right to be. I think we are going to have to cover that eventually because I kind of love it.
We absolutely will.
Yeah, but people have been asking about it, and obviously their questions are confined to whether or not Alien is horror or sci-fi, and we've got this question, and I guess an interesting starting point for this. I know we're all going to eventually we're going to kind of wave our hands and say it's kind of grey zone. But it's interesting to get its way there because I kind of think this question is something in this genre or not. It's kind of far less relevance now. It's a lot more relevant back in the days of Blockbuster. You got to look in a certain aisle, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I mean, bringing it back to the first episode we did. I mean, you have to do that for Netflix as well. To be fair. I mean, because of all the shows I've been watching on Netflix, all the horrors, I now get recommended a load of horror stuff. So that, and would one of them be Silence of the Lambs? That's I guess the question we're asking.
Well, the thing is, it could be tagged with multiple genres.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is
so
it.
it can show up in multiple searches. So it's not such a problem. But I don't think your good old Blockbuster would have multiple copies just to cover like the I guess you would say thriller aisle, the horror aisle, the romance aisle nowadays, if you believe a lot of Tumblr. People have some very interesting takes on that film.
I suppose there's only really one way to answer that question, and if there's somebody either in the chat or who watches this video afterwards, if they live anywhere in the vicinity of a Blockbuster that is miraculously still open, walk in and look for Silence of the Lambs, and whichever aisle it sits on, that's what kind of film it is.
But what if it's in the kids section?
Then it's a kids film.
That's not. I don't think you can define genre by that.
I think you can.
It's a pretty solid rule there. You can't. There's a defined methodology there.
You can't. But what if Blockbuster makes a mistake? What if
Blockbuster doesn't make mistakes?
Then if
you were old enough, Haryan,
then why is it closed down?
The only mistake it made was not buying Netflix. That was the only one fatal mistake. Other than that, picture perfect.
Right. If Blockbuster was so smart, how come it's dead?
All right. Okay. If Alexander the Great was so great, why is he dead?
Exactly. You tell me.
One fatal mistake. He stopped breathing.
Exactly. Blockbuster.
Okay. Blockbuster one mistake. He made one mistake. Made one mistake.
No, they put Silence of the Lambs in the kids section as well. That's a mistake.
Well, that's not.
Film.
That's not.
Are you going to the San Francisco Blockbuster? Like,
Probably.
Empire 2.0 is Venom and a horror. Yes, it's horrific that they made that film. What were they thinking? Have we got a nice gimmick account here? The Ooh-Wisher? Very good.
Yeah. There you go. Mr. Gently Benevolent wants the chicken on as the fourth panelist.
She would, she would. I've actually, when they've been poorly, I've literally sort of worked with a chicken on my lap and just sort of tapped away. And they're generally quite pliant, very, very amenable.
Sounds great.
Oh, there you go. Empire. Empire says that Red Dragon shows up in his horror feed.
I don't know what that is.
That's the prequel.
It is. It is.
To Silence of the Lambs.
It's the prequel remake, I think we can say, because obviously, well, I don't know if it's obvious now.
There was a Hannibal Lecter.
Yeah, there was a Hannibal, but there was also the first filming of Hannibal Lecter was by, my brain is failing me. I want to say Michael Mann, who would go on to direct Heat, and help me out, the Tom Cruise film with Collateral. That's the one. He directed a version of the film called Manhunter.
Yeah.
Where, and you don't, it's an adaptation of the Red Dragon novel, but it is starring Brian Cox as Hannibal Lecter, and it's he does a good job, but he's not. It's kind of hard to think of anyone as Lecter who isn't Anthony Hopkins. Like, even with the TV series, it's that role is kind of claimed.
Yeah, I mean, I was sorry, excuse me. I was referring to Manhunter when it was when we were talking about, because I don't know, like if many sort of like the younger audience know about that film, because I've seen it. Again, it's one of those that I don't really remember much of, but it does have, well, from what I can remember, there was sort of a different tone compared to Silence of the Lambs, because I think I saw it before even Hannibal was a thing. So we're sort of going back. Well, yeah, we're going back more than 20 years ago, easily.
Nice.
It is a what? Yeah, it's a while. Like, there are some nice, memorable sequences. You get Tom Noonan as the Red Dragon, and sorry, no, I'm an idiot. As the Tooth Fairy. That is the name of the killer in that. It always throws me off. And he's kind of great because the guy is absolutely massive. You may know him as one of the sort of more villain. He's the non-Charles Dance villain in Last Action Hero.
Right.
And you may, if I'm really lucky, some people may be familiar with Tom Noonan from The House of the Devil, which I would very much like us to do. It's one of those post-2010 retro horrors where it's doing its absolute best to look like it was made in the 70s.
Nice.
That's fantastic. We're talking around Silence of the Lambs. We're not really covering the thing that I think the whole question of why you'd want to know what genre something is, it's kind of something you get stuck on retroactively, because I can imagine a lot of people would see Silence of the Lambs expecting a kind of standard police procedural, and if it's been sold to them as that, they're probably getting something a fair bit stronger than they expected.
Yeah. I mean, sort of to take it to an extreme level, if you refer, sort of go back to what Haryan said, if this film was in the kids aisle and you think of the Silence of the Lambs and you're looking for a kids film, and you know nothing about this franchise at all, and there's no, you've got one of the Blockbuster own VHS cases, you would pick that up and maybe think, the Silence of the Lambs, maybe some nursery rhymes, and then you put it in, emotionally scar your child for a good number of years of their formative years, and you think, I was a bit missold on that, wasn't I?
Yeah, they'd probably say it was horrific. Though,
this needs to go in the horror aisle.
Yeah, though a layman might say that. I mean, I'm just checking the Wikipedia. Wikipedia describes it as a psychological thriller. And then if Wikipedia psychological thriller, it says it is closely related to and sometimes overlaps with psychological horror. I don't see. I mean, I'm not shock horror. I've not seen this film, but I know many of the scenes from it. Is it this one where he just starts cutting? Does he cut up someone's brain and start cooking it in front of him?
No,
No, that's a film Hannibal.
Okay, that's Hannibal. Okay,
Yeah.
so that one's more horrific. It just has him in the jail and he does the thing
That's
where he
the
says
one,
he
that's
eats his
the one.
liver. Yeah. Is that the only bit with Hannibal Lecter? Is he in?
No, he's in quite a bit of it, because obviously
Yeah.
there's the prison scenes where he's talking to Clarice, and then he's getting transferred, isn't he?
He is.
Yeah.
I kind of want Haryan to not be spoiled by this.
No.
Should we ease off on the spoilers? Because I feel like I want
yeah.
Haryan to watch Silence of the Lambs relatively unspoiled.
Yeah.
So I think I'll go light on details.
Okay, that's fair. I do just want to say though, it was my ex's favorite film, and she told me a lot about it, so it might already be spoiled. But fair enough. Yeah, you might say something I didn't know.
But but in short, he is an important character. So he's not just sort of he's not fleetingly in it. He's quite prominent.
Yeah. And you have Buffalo Bill's in it as well, and he's more, I guess, unsettling than horrific, even though he is a serial killer. But he's, I mean, I know we said level off on the spoilers, but he is murdering people and doing horrific things to them. The thing is, I don't know how much of that you see.
No, that's fair enough.
Yeah.
I mean, I think the problem is, I was trying to look up a little treat for you guys in kinds of like surprising genre categorization. I was just looking up the Wikipedia for Rocky 3, which has sadly been changed because it used to classify Rocky 3 in the list of homoerotic films.
Really?
Yes.
Are you sure that wasn't Top Gun?
Nope. Rocky 3 was in there.
Wow.
You know what? Fair.
I might have to go back and watch it.
I can see it.
I'm going to have to go and reevaluate that.
I mean, who's more attractive than Sylvester Stallone?
Oh, if only you could see Haryan now, guys. If only you could see him now.
It's all Carl Weathers, baby.
He's too modest.
So I'm trying to think of in terms of whether it's fair to call it a horror. If I were to make the case, I'd kind of say that it kind of pushes buttons a fair bit further than you'd expect, and in just a few key scenes. So I'd probably point to, apart from it being an 18, so it's kind of rough, it's kind of intense as it is, but you've got some details like that are a lot more gruesome than you might have expected from a regular killer, like the sort of skinning of people. I think kind of takes you over the line. There's you know, I'll avoid specific spoilers, but there are details and say displays of gore. Oh crikey, how can I avoid spoiling this? In one of the last scenes, after Clarice interviews Hannibal for the last time, which I think anyone watching this, the scenes with the security guards, if you get me.
Yeah.
Those could have been a bit grisly in a standard thriller, but this one really went out of its way to sort of be very gross, very gory, in sort of a way I really wouldn't expect from the director.
No. But then I think in that respect, just because there's gore in a film doesn't necessarily make it a horror, because by that logic, the opening scene of Saving Private Ryan would be like a like probably one of the goriest films out there with the rate, with the certification rating it's got. Yeah. I would probably argue that, the Silence of the Lambs does have horror elements in it. I mean, when you look at the source material that they're referencing, again, I don't think I need to spoil it. I don't think. I don't think saying this will spoil it. But he, in particular, one of the characters is loosely referenced, and I mean very loosely referenced, from Ed Gein, who, if you don't know who he is, check out my first true crime video to find out more about him. But I'll leave that there.
Nice.
And of course, like, when you understand his backstory and you understand the influence that he had on one of the characters, you could say, yeah, that's obviously horrific. And that could be scary and whatnot. But then there are the psychological aspects of it, like the chemistry between other characters in that film, that sort of take it away from being a horror.
Yeah, I mean, it's a layered film. It's a layered film, and I think it's not one note, but one of the notes it definitely tries to go for is to scare you, is to gross you out, is to sort of at times definitely leave you afraid. I mean, the sort of final confrontation scene, obviously, this kind of film is going to have a final confrontation, no spoilers there, but that is shot in a way to really, really scare the crap out of people. I think that's a deliberate choice, but I also think there's kind of kickstarting a trend where it seems like cinema felt people could handle a bit more gore, that people liked the horror angle, and I think you started to see people go for that a little bit more. Like much more horror crossover. So you did get, you've always got the horror comedies, but I thought specifically this film started pushing so many. I know I've said this before, but this film I really think started pushing the trend where detective stories went for not just killers, but like really gross killers, like really weirdly specific murderers. And it's just, it would be a full horror film if we'd arrived and seen the killing, but we just sort of see the detectives discover the body.
Yeah.
And it's this weird, I don't know, genre osmosis that's happening.
Yeah, I mean, this is the thing. If that's the case, then you could probably make the case that some Jonathan Creek episodes are horror.
Definitely.
The ones that spring to mind are ones I always bring up. The one with the bathtub that, collapses when anyone goes in and drowns them. And then there's the guy at the stairs.
I was just thinking of that one.
And it's kind of like, can one or two scenes make a horror film? Not really, especially from the films we've been given so far. But I mean, we'll get onto it later when we talk about the film we were watching this week. But could you say Would You Rather was a horror film? Because that...
Absolutely.
Oh, definitely.
Oh.
So...
I mean, we're probably going to... This is probably the point where we sort of wave our hands and say, it's kind of a horror. It's got some horror elements. It aims to horrify you at points.
It does, as does Jonathan Creek, as does Silence of the Lambs. So it's kind of... Does the intention have to be the film as a whole? And with that, I would agree. And then I'd say with Silence of the Lambs, since it comes to a point, the peak of the film is kind of the horrific stuff you find out. And from the sounds of it, there is some of it. Well, the intention then is to scare you, at least for the climax. And the climax is,
Has anyone here seen the film Seven? I think I might be thinking of the right film. I personally haven't. Right, okay. So would you consider Seven to be a horror film?
Very good question.
Because
probably not.
While I haven't seen the film, I've understood. Like there's certain bits of it that I've picked up, and from my gathering, if you can and ah about Seven, or if you can't sort of shoehorn Seven into a particular genre, but you can sort of spread it out across multiple genres out there, and say there's elements of this, elements of that, elements of this, then you can say the same about Silence of the Lambs. And I think if there's people on Twitter arguing as to whether this film is A or B, well, I would argue this film is A and B, and a bit of C, and a bit of D. There's no real correct answer. There is just, it it has some of this, it has some of that. That's what makes it special in that way, in that it sort of dips its toes in different genres and puts it all together into, quite frankly, a cinematic masterpiece for its time.
Oh heck yeah! Probably the good question is, like, obviously things can be multiple genres, but what's the sort of operative feeling you're meant to have? So I guess a quick question would be, films will have intimate scenes. Does that make them a porno? Almost every film, someone cracks a joke. Is it then a comedy? It's like,
is the Terminator a porno?
I mean,
I'd like to see it if it is. No, well, this is the whole thing with genre. How do you define a piece of media genre? I mean, it can be a lot easier with games because you've got first-person shooters, and horror games are really obvious.
Yeah,
because they will have jump scares, and this is the thing. You don't need a jump scare to make a good horror. I wouldn't. Over the 9 hours of Bly Manor, there were 2 jump scares. Well, apart from I mean, I keep ignoring the ghost with the glowing eyes, glowing
Eddie.
glasses, but yeah, I keep ignoring Eddie, but he's about 10 of them. So I guess that's obviously a bit more horror, but when it comes to like Saw, are there jump scares in that? Really, it's more tension rising up until they either get killed or escape. But it's still horrific.
There's one or two, but it doesn't go for. It's a tension holder.
Yeah,
which is weird. Like they definitely move into the directors, Lee Wannell and James Wan. They obviously when they move into The Conjuring and onto Dead Silence, they do start to use more jump scares. I think that was possibly like a studio thing that they're asked to do, but they don't just do jump scares. They kind of did the delayed jump scare and then the delayed jump scare. So they really sort of build you up to expect the jump scare and then expect it in one place and then disappoint you and then deliver it a bit later. And they kind of, I don't like jump scares, but I kind of like how they play with the audience.
Yeah, they can be done well, but I think if I was ever making a horror film, I'd just avoid them entirely. I just think it's a very lazy way to have a scene go on, unless you can do it well, like Butterfly Kisses did, because they could have had jump scares all over that film, but they only had it once, and it was quite tasteful. So, as tasteful as a jump scare can go. So, but point being, you don't need them for horror, I'd say.
No, it's not. I think it's fair to have it as a tool in your arsenal. Would you feel like moving on to the film of the week? Would you rather?
Yeah.
Would you rather carry on with Silence of the Lambs?
I mean,
you missed a trick there.
What? Oh, did I?
No, proper did.
Yeah, yeah. Got it. Yeah. I was going to say though.
Oh, go ahead.
Should we have a? We didn't really talk about Alien. Is that a horror film?
Oh, definitely.
Because I mean, I think we'd all say obviously it's a horror film, but I think the argument on Twitter seems to be because it's in space, it can't be a horror film. One argument I saw was it can't be a horror film because horror requires that kind of the unknown is impeding on the known world, and when you're in space, everything's unknown, so it doesn't make sense.
Oh,
but that argument's
an academic.
One, that's an academic, but two, it's a completely retarded argument because the point is that to the people on the ship that they've been living on for the last 5 years, that is normal, which is what matters.
Literally, the top tweet I've just seen, Mauler's just retweeted the old John Scanlon face. My argument, horror cannot be set in space. Literally just what you're saying now.
yeah, that's all she's. Yeah, it's like, because space is unknown. It's like, but it matters with the characters in the film. To them, they know the ship. And
also, the sheer fact that space is unknown leads to that horror. Unsettling. It would be more suited to a horror vibe because you are literally going into the unknown. You have no idea out there.
Oh, what? Hang on. You mean in space where they're kind of trapped and they're not really able to escape because they're in the void? That doesn't. Nah, I don't think that adds to the operative emotion of fear. Nah.
I mean, no one can hear you scream as well. So.
Well, yeah. Well, maybe put that in the kids section in Blockbuster 2. Yeah.
Yeah, it's just put it next to Star Wars.
Booisha, are you trying to get me like sued? That's creative. The eagle-eyed among you may notice there's my little homebrew blockbuster cassette there. That was, that was one I made earlier in Blue Peter fashion.
I do love that. I do love that.
Yeah.
I think if I was going to summarize, I think, you're absolutely fine to call Silence of the Lambs horror. You probably shouldn't call it an LGBT film because people get very annoyed.
Why?
Watch it and then you'll find out.
Okay.
This is not good representation.
Mm-mm.
I hear the clown from It's gay as well.
Oh,
well,
gosh, I remember that debacle.
Yeah. Wasn't it the clown from It isn't the LGBT representative that we need or that we that we expected or something like along those lines? They're literally praising a child killer. And
folks, if you're talking about sexuality in Stephen King's It, that is the least bad example.
Oh, I know. Some things shouldn't even be written down in a book. I'm just saying, Stephen. Keep those thoughts to yourself, you dirty degenerates.
It's one of those interesting, like, obviously, big fan of Stephen King, obviously. Created lots of stuff that's brought great value to my horrific little life. But I kind of love the people trying to create a really in-depth, emotional, high symbolic description for why the scene that I'm not going to try and describe on YouTube happens. And the reality is the author did a coke ball.
Yeah.
And that 1,000-page book ain't going to write itself, man. You just go with that stream of consciousness, boy.
I mean, there's sometimes when I'm sitting here writing my scripts for my videos and I'm writing out what I've already sort of researched, and I struggle to write some of the stuff that's happened. I mean, again, look at some of the stuff I've done, the Ed Gein, the Richard Trenton Chase videos, just to mention a couple. I found it really hard just to write down what I already had learned about them. But for Stephen King, just to, think that up and happily put it on millions of books.
Yeah.
Weird flex, but okay.
Yeah, it was a Family Guy moment, wasn't it? Where it's just like, oh, this is how Stephen King writes his books, and he just goes, scary, 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 ding, scary, 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 ding. He's just on a typewriter.
Fair play to the guy, though. He may be known, he's prolific, but he's also kind of relaxed about adaptations, and he's impressively non-precious. So with this, from what I can tell, with the sole exception of The Shining, he's been so chill with people massively changing his work. The obvious example is the end of The Mist, which Frank Darabont completely switched around for the amazing film of it. But another really good one is the Pet Sematary remake. There's a nice little interview that he did. My brain is scrambling and failing to identify who he did it with. I want to say Rolling Stone, and the guy just doesn't care. He's so relaxed when people are changing it. He's like, it's absolutely fine. And the interviewer is trying to say, it's almost like people have sort of rediscovered you. And he says, yeah, there's a whole load of new licensing going around, so there's probably a whole load of old shit that's going to get remade. Fair play, man. Fair play.
He wasn't wrong.
Yeah, bless him. I kind of adore how unpretentious he is about that. Actually, he's kind of cool. I'm seeing reference in the chat to a Woman in Black adaptation by the BBC in 1989.
And Ghostwatch.
Guys, this is awesome. Seriously?
Have you? If what was I thinking? Ghostwatch. I'm assuming by Ghostwatch you're referring to that BBC show that sent the public into a frenzy. Les Seagull. If you guys don't know about that, look into what's his name? Insider Mind on YouTube. He did a piece on that episode. and the fallout from it. I think someone ended up killing themselves over it. I think.
Oh, nice.
Because they were that
not nice, but
yeah. I mean, it was that bad. It's like some woman, somebody blamed that show for basically her son's suicide. It was really tragic. And yeah, the BBC basically for a long time washed their hands of that episode. That episode.
Oh.
Yeah, really bad. But when you sort of look back on it, you know, there was still quite a large cult following of it, of that particular episode, and it was quite clever. It was very clever in how they did it, the little subtle things. And what was good about that show as well, people could phone in and report things that they'd seen and whatnot. But anyway, I won't talk too much about it. Look up Inside a Mind Ghost Watch on YouTube, and I'll let him do the explaining.
I think we have a future episode.
Yeah, I was
definitely.
Quickly talking about being terrified by the woman in black. When I must have been 10 or 11. No, I was a bit older than that. I must have been 14. I was on a holiday in London with my parents, and one of the shows we were seeing at the West End was an adaptation of The Woman in Black.
Nice.
So, you know, probably, you know, one of my first, I think it's my only ever stage show, like horror stage show I watched. So at the halfway point, obviously you see the woman in black kind of in the background of the stage every now and then. And she's kind of alluded to, but not, you know, she's never explicitly pointed out by anyone. So I say to my mum and dad, I'm like, oh, it's scary. Did you see the woman in black in the background? And my mum just went, no. My dad looks over and goes, geez, she's trying to scare him. And he played along with it for a bit. And they just kept saying no all the way through the second half, all the way to the end. And then about an hour after the show ended, after I've been terrified going, I don't even have kids. What am I terrified of? My mum just goes, oh yeah, I saw her. Don't worry.
Oh, nice.
And I'm pretty sure even that's only because I couldn't sleep. So my mum, traumatized me.
I love it. I saw it as well. I saw it in 2019, so I should have seen it ages ago, but it was amazing. It didn't start off too well because there was like a whole class full of noisy school kids, and they're sort of having a laugh the way I thought, oh gosh, oh come on, darn it, don't be laughing through the play. But that was great because they got absolutely traumatized by the end of it. So it was fantastic seeing them absolutely white as sheets.
Yeah.
You know. Yeah. But no, it's genuinely effective. Okay, folks. I want to pivot. We've got a film to review, and I've got a lot to say about Would You Rather. So I want to switch onto it. Is that cool?
That's absolutely fine. I just tried to share a link in the chat for that Inside of Mind Ghost Watch video, and it's not letting me share links.
Can't share links. I don't know if I need to I think I need to make you a mod, which I don't know how to do now. So put it in private chat and I'll post it.
Done.
Yeah.
Already done. Cool.
All right. It has not. When it comes up, I'll put it in.
Sweet.
Okay. So I wanted to go for Would You Rather because I think it is interesting thematically, it's interesting in how it delivers a plot, and also I think it's one that probably a lot of people haven't heard of and haven't seen. I really get the impression that this is a very little known film. So I'm wondering from the chat, let me know in the chat if you have seen this film before, if you had heard of it before, or if it is as obscure as I think it is. This is not a well-known director. It's not a well-known writer. It is a relatively low-budget film. And whilst the cast is kind of interesting, it doesn't. It's only really got the one person who I think is like big in the horror world.
Yeah, I mean the cast itself really made it blaringly obvious to me that this was done on a budget, because they bring in a porn star, Sasha Grey, as one of the actresses, and
is she a porn star, Haryan? How would you know?
Because I'm a great connoisseur of her work. No, it's because she's a Twitch e girl now, and
really?
there's quite a lot. Yeah, there's quite a lot of clips of her, and she jokes about being a porn star. I don't watch porn. I'm a good Catholic boy.
Good
It is
lad.
a sentence that no one ever seems to believe, but whatever. But they also got Rob Wells from Trailer Park Boys in it, and he does nothing apart from Trailer Park Boys, and he kind of just acted like Ricky, who he plays in the Trailer Park Boys, but a bit, he could actually talk, because one of the running jokes in Trailer Park Boys is that he mispronounces words. But he was basically the same character, I found, but he only had about 4 lines, so it's kind of hard to judge properly. But yeah, they weren't really famous actors, apart from he played the mustache guy. I recognise him,
Jeffrey
but I can't.
Combs.
Yeah, Jeffrey Combs.
Oh man.
But yeah, they had someone from The Bill play the MI5 butler.
Hang on,
and
what? Who's
yeah,
in The Bill?
I think so. I looked on the Wikipedia
Oh my
through the
goodness.
actors. I'm pretty sure he was,
Awesome.
from what I remember. So it's very. Is Sasha a real queen? No, she's a thought. She's a fucking porn star.
So, by your ratings, a 3 for wholesomeness, yeah?
Wow.
She
I
certainly
saw
go.
those films.
She's certainly gone up in my estimation since she became an e-girl, and she doesn't do any porn anymore. So she would have been like a 2, but she's probably a 3 or 4 now. Yeah, on the wholesome scale.
Okay, from what I'm seeing in chat, people have not known this or they've heard of it on my channel. Jan, we're going to spoil this whole film. We're going to discuss it in depth, all the way to the end. So I won't be offended if you want to duck out, but we're going to cover the whole thing. You probably still enjoy it. I don't. I guess I would say it's not a film that relies on big plot twists. Like it kind of it thrives on inevitability. So, but there still might be a few surprises that would be nice to enjoy. But just before we get into it, like I kind of like to keep talking about the cast because, as you say, it's not big names, but they are good people. You've got the person from Trailer Park Boys. You've got Jeffrey Combs, who's obviously a horror legend, most known for Reanimator, Bride of Reanimator, I'd say.
Yeah.
He's just kind of glory. He's also in Star Trek constantly.
You've got Kevin McAllister's dad.
Yep.
Also of Sharknado fame.
Homicide Alone. Sasha Grey, as mentioned. You've got Eddie Giffen from My Name is Earl. You have, I might mess this up, Larry Gilliard Jr., who's trying to be fancy and is credited as Lawrence Gilliard Jr.
Oh, yeah.
No. It worked for Lawrence Fishburne, but he started off as Larry Fishburne, as he's credited in Nightmare on Elm Street 3. But he had to really earn that Lawrence. I don't know if Lawrence Gilliard Jr. has really done that yet.
Lawrence isn't a name you're born with; it's one you earn.
Absolutely. Another piece of interesting casting I wanted to... Oh, obviously, I wanted to mention Enver Hyokai, who I probably mispronounced. If you know Joss Whedon's later work, Dollhouse especially, you'll be very familiar with him. To be a Whedon regular, he even gets a cheeky cameo in The Avengers, the first one. Again, just an amazing character actor, if not a massive name. As Ride the Tiger is noting, Gilliard is from D'Angelo Barksdale in The Wire. I was really happy to see him in this. He was kind of random. Like so many, there are a few like character actors from The Wire who keep turning up everywhere, and others who just never seen. A lot of them because they were arrested, which is quite tragic. But
I really need to watch that show.
Yeah,
never seen The Wire.
Okay, we will not discuss The Wire further. But one other interesting bit of casting I wanted to ask about is the lead character, Iris. Brittany Snow plays her. Were you familiar with Brittany Snow?
Not by name.
No.
Though I'm googling her, so we'll see if I recognise any film she was in.
Like Pitch Perfect.
No, who did she play in that?
This might surprise you, Proper Horror Show, but I never have seen this film.
You haven't seen Pitch Perfect?
No.
It's a gay romp. You'll have a fantastic time.
I've seen it because I had a lot of I lived with girls at uni, so I didn't have a choice but to watch it. It's quite good, to be fair.
It's a great laugh.
Yeah,
it's a great laugh. We may one day do a stream where I vent the huge amounts of ire and fury I have about the absolutely godforsaken sequel of Pitch Perfect 2.
Yeah, it was.
I was so angry about that. I nearly walked out. I was absolutely furious. But that's a whole side issue. But right here is our main character from Would You Rather, and I find her basically unrecognizable.
That's incredible.
I prefer her there.
Yeah, understandably, like she's in bright colours.
Well, ginger as well. Yeah,
ginger hair that does it for you, anyway.
It helps.
Yeah, exactly.
It helps, doesn't it, folks? It helps. But yeah, I thought that was quite an amazing transformation. Like I never would have thought that that's the same person.
Definitely.
She was in Hairspray as well, 2007 one. Another one I watched because I did drama at school, and that was the only film we had for the coach to London. But I don't remember it very well. But I don't really recognise her in any of the other films.
That's fine. That's fine.
So,
basically, what I just wanted to cover was that there is a really amazing cast of character actors who are, you will know, they're not the main person, but they're good actors who do a great job in this. And also a weird number of them are comedy actors. So that really stood out to me. It's really interesting.
Yeah, I was really surprised when I saw Ricky from Trailer Park Boys in it. I mean, because I had seen this film beforehand years ago, and I only really started watching Trailer Park Boys. I think it was like 2 years ago, and I only put that. I basically like downloaded a bunch of episodes from Netflix just to watch because we went away for a caravan holiday with the family, and it was just something to have at night time. And then I saw Would You Rather, obviously in preparation for this, and I was like, that's bloody Ricky, that is. That's Ricky. What was he doing?
Yeah, that was literally my reaction.
Yeah. And like you said as well, like when the second he opened his mouth, I was like, my God, he's even in character.
Yeah. Because I think he plays a gambler in the
he
film,
does, yeah.
He's supposed to be, yeah, and it's kind of he's a bit of a greasy guy, which that's exactly what he is in Trailer Park Boys. It's the exact same accent.
Yeah, he's like, I know what you're doing, man. I know your games, man. I can play you, man.
Look, I'm sorry.
Yeah, I'm sorry. All right.
I'm sorry about this. Yeah, it's weird though because it must have been directed completely differently to how Trailer Park Boys is.
Oh, obviously, yeah, definitely.
Obviously, Trailer Park Boys is filmed like a really low budget documentary, and this was a kind of middling budget horror film, probably with a proper director. Well, with a proper director and all that.
Yeah.
Not that I'm saying they don't direct Trailer Park Boys properly, but it's a completely different way of shooting it, and. What screws up in Trailer Park Boys? Someone laughs when they're not supposed to, or someone doesn't deliver their lines. But yeah, you got to look terrified doing horrors, I'd imagine. And no, because my eyes were on him quite a lot because I was interested to see how he acts outside of Trailer Park Boys.
Definitely, yeah. Because I mean, because that was sort of like in the midst. I mean, what was it, 2012, 2013? That Would You Rather came out, and obviously Trailer Park Boys has been going on for a good couple of years, at least by then, because it's been around for donkey's years now, hasn't it?
I think that was when they had a break between when they ended with the Canadian studio, when they were going with Netflix. Because I think Netflix picked them up in 2017, so it might have been a year after Trailer Park Boys.
So it's probably like venturing out to different projects in between, and obviously just stumbled upon Would You Rather.
Yeah. Because I know they did a lot of live shows throughout Canada. So
they've also got an animated one as well, haven't they? An animated show.
Yeah. So it was a year before Netflix picked up Trailer Park Boys.
Right.
So that's interesting. Yeah, he'd not Trailer Park Boys had been off for about 6 years at that point, because it stopped in 2007. Yeah, so it's interesting.
Yeah.
I don't know how long Sasha Grey hadn't been having dicks in her though.
Yeah.
On camera.
Yeah, that I'm not gonna lie, mate, that was another name I noticed, and I was sitting there with my wife and I was like the first thing I said was, hang on, she's a porn star. My wife was like, how do you know?
Dress yourself up, mate.
Well, I just went, I know these things.
Oh dear. As I said, I know her from Twitch. Why are you watching her on Twitch?
Yeah. You can't help yourself, Haryan. What are you doing, mate?
Yeah.
Oh, it'd be 15 years this year. I mean, there's nothing that she doesn't already know.
Oh, it's adorable.
I know. It's disgusting. I would have got less for what? Anyway.
For murder. Well, what a relevant thing to bring in to this.
Yeah.
Sorry, terrible segue. But we should probably, I mean, let's roughly go over the plot. I'm sure everyone has been warned we are covering the whole thing, but roughly, so you know, it's an interestingly timely piece and was probably written to be timely. The whole plot of Would You Rather centers around someone who is, well, Iris, who is basically poor and desperate because of her brother's massive medical bills. He's in need of a kidney transplant, I believe.
Bone marrow. He's got leukemia.
Yeah,
bone marrow.
yeah.
There we go. Bone marrow transplant. And so she's presented in classic horror fashion. She's presented this kind of too good to be true opportunity that could solve all her problems. It's a classic deal with the devil scenario. And there are some really nice details in that scene where she is presented with it. So she's presented in this really sort of down to earth fashion. She's relatable. She's working kind of jobs that most of us will have done, you know. You can believe her. She's dressed in a very normal way. She's presented in a fairly flat way going through the street. And you see her opening a door for someone and using a wheelchair. It's like, she's relatable, you know, that's a sort of save the cat moment that endears her to us. Whereas she meets the guy providing this amazing opportunity, Mr. Lambrick, played by Jeffrey Combs. And I thought there's some really nice symbolism here, because he is in the doctor's office. The doctor is introducing them, and he's just sort of sitting there eating peanuts and sort of discarding the shells. He's making a little mess there.
Yeah, I noticed this.
He's it's kind of like he's getting the bit he wants and he doesn't care about the things he discards. It's nice symbolism. He's just uncouth whilst being very charismatic. And I also thought when he's making this offer, like, oh, you'll come and have dinner with me. I thought the fact that he's on a couch is really suggesting the kind of casting couch thing. And I think the film is great for having her be wary and not just jump for it. She knows it's too good to be true. Like, did you get that vibe?
Yeah, I mean, I definitely got the vibe of he didn't really seem to care about Iris from the lack of eye contact. You know, he sort of talked himself up. I mean, obviously he was trying to sell himself anyway, but you know, try and convince her to come over. But you know, the sort of the hyping himself up. You know, this is what I've done. Blah blah blah. This is how I've helped your doctor. Rah rah rah. But yeah, the peanuts on the sofa, I sort of noticed was a little subtle way of saying that he doesn't really care about the mess that he leaves behind, because he never tidied up after himself. And just the fact that, you know, it was almost like a lack of respect for someone else's property,
space,
a space. But yeah, one of, you know, the lack of eye contact for me was a telling part, because if you're willing to help somebody, then that would sort of indicate to me that, you know, that there's a level of empathy there. You know, I understand your concerns. You know, you're in this position. I want to help you. You know, that comes from a caring and, you know, and that comes from a caring space. Whereas he was just like, you know, looking at his peanuts, chewing away. It's like, yeah, you know, I can help you. It's a competition. Yeah, you know, you can choose to come, whether you're not. You know, you've got a choice. But RSVP's at 8 p.m. You know, whatever. It's like, if you care, mate, you care. You at least look her in the eyes, you know. So you, immediately from the get go, you knew that something was off. It was definitely, yeah, this is too good to be true.
Yeah, I was looking around and I couldn't find it, but I just got the feeling that he was really trying to channel Vincent Price from The House on Haunted Hill.
Okay.
Now that's maybe a bit niche, but that is a late 50s film, which has a very similar premise. A crazily rich guy who dresses very nice and has that kind of mustache invites a whole load of strangers to a mansion, and they get a whole load of money if they just play his game, which is they just have to make it one night in the House on Haunted Hill. I think he was really channeling that.
Gotcha.
Anyway, once the whole opportunity he's giving people.
Empire, sorry. Empire just says in the chat, he also did his jacket up to show dominance. It's a very good point.
Yes, he's in charge, and he dominates the Doctor as well. The Doctor played by Larry Gilliard, who's kind of there as a proof, as a social proof, which is quite interesting. And I thought he didn't have much to do in that scene, so I felt he kind of puffed it up a bit so that he had bigger movements and stood out more, which I think you need to do. I mean, he's a great actor, so he needed that moment. But Jeffrey Combs is kind of having the time of his life, and I think he kind of needs to, because you kind of hate the guy, and so he really needs to be larger than life. But I'm talking around the main issue here, which is what that actual game is. If you've done your horror homework, you know that it is a game of Would You Rather, which is centered around these guests who are all basically in debt for some reason or another, and they sit round the table and they are challenged. They are challenged to go against their principles, challenged to endure things with the promise of all their debt problems being over with.
Yeah.
Now, what do you think of that in terms as a kind of timely premise?
I think it's very good. The actual game itself. So yeah, obviously there's conditions. You have to make a choice. There is a certain time limit in which you have to make that choice. And if you don't make a choice within that time limit, you'll be eliminated. So the second that clock starts, already there's an existential crisis going on inside your mind. Like, you know, I have to do bad A or bad B. So I'm either going to hurt somebody else or I'm going to hurt myself. You know, it's all laid out on the table there in front of you, you know, in that 15 seconds, 30 seconds. That's quite terrifying, especially when you're given the options that you're given in the game.
Yeah, I mean, it starts off, one thing I really liked is it starts off small but insidious. I don't know how this landed with you guys, because obviously I'm kind of an outlier here. I'm a big soppy-hearted, you know, wussy vegan who lets chickens walk all over her. You know, if you're lucky, they only walk. You know, they have very poor bowel control.
Nice.
But the first thing he does when everyone's around the table is start testing people's will, people's principles. First thing, when our protagonist Iris is served a steak, and everyone is served steak, and she says, "No, I'm a vegetarian."
That's right.
And he immediately pounces on that with absolute glee and says, he knows, "No, I'm going to offer you $10,000 to eat the steak and the foie gras."
Foie gras. Such an awesome word.
Didn't offer a Chianti though.
No.
Haryan, can I have your Lecter impression again? What do you think of that? How'd that feel to you?
Yeah, really good. I like that. Just kick things off. I mean, obviously it wasn't quite a, I suppose in a way it sort of felt a bit out of place, because there wasn't really anything. I mean, he did that a couple of times. Obviously there was that moment with Iris, and then he did it with Kevin McAllister's dad. But then that never really sort of come up again. I mean, understandably so, because the game is Would You Rather, not you know, it wasn't a bidding, you know, it wasn't, you know, it wasn't the sort of like everyone has a price kind of game, you know.
No, it's much
But
more than that.
it sort of set the tone, because it set the tone in that it made, like you said at the beginning, it challenged people's principles in that moment. You know, Iris was like a lifelong, or like had been a vegan or vegetarian, sorry, for like the best part of like 20 years. And he found it incredibly entertaining that all it took for her to drop her values was 10 grand. That was it.
Yeah.
There she was, eating that foie gras.
And then, yeah, when he does it with the alcoholic, he says, "Oh, well, she drops it for 10 grand. Why not you?" And then when he doesn't relent, he goes, "All right, how about 50 grand?" Which is then put on the table. Which if I was Iris at that point, I'd be like, "Wow, I should have pushed him for more." Yeah, it was an interesting start.
I will say this, actually. I'll ask you this, Prop Horror Show, because you mentioned that you're a vegan. Imagine you're sitting at the table at that moment, and you're given that foie gras, and he turns around to you and says, £10,000, eat that for 10 grand. If you were in the position that Iris was in, what would you do?
10 grand, that's down the gullet.
Yeah.
Nice,
you kidding me? 10 grand. 10 grand once. Easy.
Especially if you want to save your chickens,
Yeah. It's interesting in how quickly, like, that's an easy decision to make. But you also think, hang on, that sets a precedent. That's a kind of slippery slope, isn't it?
Yeah.
And it's one thing to see that, and then it's slightly, I think, more disturbing to see Kevin McAllister, his dad, get broken after, what was it, 20 years of sobriety? 16 years, sorry, 16 years sober. And that one, that felt a lot more sinister. And I think you get the feel at that point, this is going to ramp up.
Yeah, because the tone of the two, of those two sort of like mini games, if you will, were very different. Obviously, that was the first one. Okay, you could sort of argue, you know, it's a bit harsh making a. Well, she didn't. He didn't make her eat. Propositioning her to eat the meat in that manner. Okay, you could argue, it's a bit, you know, insensitive. But when it got to Kevin McAllister's dad, and he's like, you know, 16 years sober, and then he pulls out the old big bottle of Scotch, or the Scotch, and he's literally just ridiculing that guy, like verbally beating him down. And
he goes savage straight away, doesn't he? He really digs into the guy.
Yeah, and he's like, you know, I've turned my life around. He's like, really? Have you? Look at yourself. You're sitting here, you're begging me for money.
Yeah.
I mean, how have you turned your life around? Your kids have left you, your wife has gone, blah blah. You know, you've got no money. So tell me. And then he sort of, I thought it was really clever when he turned around and he said, you know, the drink was the start of your problems, and then maybe it can now be the start of your solutions, or something along those lines. But when he said that, and then at that point he was like, fuck it, down the hatchet.
Yeah. Empire, you're right. It's like their strength of conviction. It's like it gets you thinking, or overthinking maybe, like about your pragmatism, about actually, do you have to hold the line? Is pragmatism kind of your undoing there? Do you need to just hold the line? But then the whole of the first round, because they have that little introduction and people have a chance to leave at that point.
They do. Yeah.
And it's kind of interesting. It's kind of a key point of horror. Another film that was released that year was Cabin in the Woods, which made the point that people have to be offered the chance to escape their fate, to say, this is looking really dodgy. I'm getting out of here.
Yeah. None of them do, interestingly.
Even though they've seen some pretty weird stuff. I mean,
with that, I think it was clever that from Lambrick's position, I think it was really clever that he played the game that he played at the beginning, where there was cash on the table. Because obviously, you know, under normal circumstances, maybe you'd be inclined to leave if perhaps, you know, there was no money. If it was maybe if he started like maybe a warm up round of Would You Rather, and it was quite harsh, and you know, just to get sort of like the idea, you know, the juices flowing, if you will. And then it's like, right, okay, we're going to get into the real thing now. Here's your chance. Maybe some people would have got up and walked out if there was nothing on the table at that point, but because there was the visual representation, you know, you had the visual, the money physically there. You had 10 grand for Irish. You know, you had 60 grand on that table at the moment, and these people are probably thinking in that moment, yeah, this is probably going to suck. I'm probably not going to get killed. I'm probably not going to enjoy it. But think about how much I could walk away with tonight. And then, of course, it completely misled them. It completely, you know, misled their, you know, it was subverted their expectations, I suppose.
Oh, totally. There's one more thing, like I noticed, to show you that this is kind of a horror fan's horror film. When they arrive at the mansion, it's so cute. There is a song playing in the background. You may recognize it from the end of The Shining. Okay. It's a song, Midnight, the Stars and You, and it plays right at the end of The Shining, and they have it playing as they're going into the mansion.
Oh, I never picked that up.
Oh, wow. It's really cute. And I think, I mean, it could have been anything, but I thought there was possibly a weird, sick joke in there because, I mean, we are full spoilers here. Larry Gilliard, after being the doctor, realizes things are going to go really badly for Iris and everyone else at the game, and he decides to interrupt and shut them down. And that's kind of like a weird side plot it's kind of necessary because otherwise basically the whole film is them in one room.
Right.
And that's hard to pull off. But they played this song from The Shining, and just like that film, they have a black character who's meant to be coming in to rescue.
Right.
Who is just offed without being able to do anything. just nerfed straight away.
I saw it coming a mile away, and
definitely
the whole time I'm just like, what are you doing?
I mean, obviously,
that was one of the weak points. I thought.
I mean, yeah. Again,
plot.
I mean, there was literally no need for it. I mean, did he even help? I mean, I don't really want to get too ahead in case, because I understand we probably want to try and go through this film sort of chronologically, but I don't even think he did nothing.
No, he didn't do anything. No, I'm sorry. If you've got a whole mansion that, you know, sets up like yearly games that basically tortures people and kills them, why would you not get the police?
Yeah,
and that could have been really interesting to see, like, because that can't be the first time that they've been intruded on by the police. Like, it'd be interesting to see how they deal with that.
Yeah.
But no, it's like, oh, what do we do about this black guy that we want to like save the day? But obviously, we need to not have him save the day. Oh, just have him try to sneak in and get shot in the back. It's like, okay. I didn't think it was great. And he's just standing there with the gun pointed at the guy who's. I mean, we're not quite there yet, but
monologuing like, "Don't worry, Iris, I'm going to save you. We're going to get out of here, and then we'll
just calm down." Yeah. It's like, oh, great.
Yeah. I honestly pretty much think that they just in my mind, quite cleverly wrote things in that so that you're not in that same room for the whole film. Because I think you'd feel it. You need visual breaks, even though I'll be honest, I don't think they always transition to those breaks all that well.
No.
And sometimes it deflated the tension a bit.
Yeah, but this is what I mean. You can do that with police. You can have the policeman like going around certain parts of the house, and you know you have to hide the guests somewhere. You can do that differently.
You can. I kind of had a side theory that police don't really work well in horror films. Just because
I've seen Scream.
Yeah, it's like I feel like
you reported for duty.
Yeah.
I just feel like when the police get involved, it's like you can start predicting a procedure, and like you start asking, like, if the cops don't turn up, you immediately start wondering, like, well, when's the backup turning up? I mean, don't they want to start looking? But I don't want to get into this. I haven't thought it out. It's just like a weird instinct I have that it's like Saw introduced police and then they couldn't get out of police. Empire 2.0 actually has a really interesting suggestion. How would you
Oh,
feel about this?
No, I think they were right just to kill him. To be honest,
Savage Haryan.
it's it's not. The whole point of the game is that you're doing things to win the money because you're deeply in debt, whereas he's already won, not in debt, and he doesn't want it for the money. So.
He's
Although
already
I guess
compromised anyway. He's compromised because he'd already played the game before and won. But obviously, the fact that he went there to try and get Iris out of it indicates that he's now compromised with the whole operation that Lamberick's got going on. So it's easier, it's easier just to off him rather than try and give him a second chance and hope that he, quote unquote, learns from his mistakes.
Yeah, I think there was enough in the film anyway. To be honest, not that I'd complain if it was like longer and they developed because I think they needed to develop some of the characters that weren't Iris more.
They were very one-dimensional, weren't they? The characters,
which I don't want to say is necessarily bad. It's just, we'll keep going through it chronologically and I'll explain what I mean near the end.
Yeah. It was zippy. I mean, I guess you can say either I want it fairly like quick and zippy as a film, or I want it more developed and I want to definitely have to really connect to everyone. Like you can go either way with this.
Yeah.
So let's get to the first round. Once they've oh god, there is one more thing I wanted to say that I noticed that might be me massively reaching.
Go on.
So at the start, I should have saved screen caps, but Iris has this music box in her bedroom that she opens up, and it's got an interesting pattern on it, and it's similar to a pattern in the main room on one of the walls, and it looks like the pattern on the Lament configuration box from Hellraiser.
Oh.
Now this is possibly a huge reach, but it is relevant to the theme of human greed and curiosity exceeding caution, and people getting a sick pleasure out of playing games. So that is my massive reach of the stream. I like to get one in at least.
Yeah. These are things that I will simply not notice because I don't get because I haven't seen these films. But no, it's good to notice it, but I can't give an opinion on it, unfortunately.
That's cool. That's cool.
Yeah.
Shall we talk about phase one?
Yes.
Let's.
Yes.
What is would you like, Haryan, would you like to describe the premise of the first phase of the game?
So round one, they bring in a machine that is hooked up to electrocute two people. It's either one of the participants is either going to be you or it's going to be the person to your right. And it goes around that way the whole table. And you have 15 seconds to decide, are you going to hit the button that electrocutes you for 5 seconds or the person to your right? And this, I would say this definitely shows the humanity of some characters and the lack of it with others. So it starts off with the black guy and Sasha Grey, doesn't it?
It does. And actually, I want to interrupt you at this point because this is very relevant. For a start, I need to apologize. I got the guy's name wrong after trying. The actor is not Eddie. What did I say? He's Eddie Steeples, and I got confused. And I know that because this guy, the absolute ledge, to be accurate, got tased and filmed himself getting tased, so that so that he could show the cast. So this is 24 seconds.
Right.
Is this going to play?
It is playing.
Yeah, that's fine.
Can people hear?
No, but
no.
StreamYard's not great for it. It's more visual, this anyway.
Yeah.
You can't hear it?
No.
Whoa! There he goes.
Well,
spoilers.
He screaed.
Yeah. Kill the cameraman.
Oh, there was an fudge there. That really hurt me. Damn. Oh, look, top left. You should definitely check that out.
Oh, nice. Okay. So, yeah, I mean, kudos to the dude. He got tased, so people had a reference.
And
yeah, that's pretty good going. That is pretty good going.
God, I appreciate it. Yeah, so it goes. So, I mean, I'll carry on with the story. So, the black guy electrocutes himself to save Sasha Grey. But then it goes on to Sasha Grey, and she just instantly electrocutes like a 90-year-old woman.
Yeah.
She's not a real queen.
No, exactly. And Jeffrey Coombs is like just laughing about this the whole time. He's just like, oh, he'll either react saying that's an interesting decision or just laugh, especially when someone makes a decision like a snap decision.
Mm.
And it kind of goes around the room like that, with men basically trying to. The men are basically saying to the women, "Look, electrocute me. We'll take 2 shocks." Which is quite interesting and quite realistic. It's not like you've not got a woman there who's saying, I'll take the hit for another woman, or for a man or something like that. So
Yeah.
And you can see the danger already, because the old lady gets knocked unconscious by the electrocution momentarily, but she comes back and then has to make a decision herself. And had the guy already been shot, the drunk guy, when he tried to leave?
Yeah, he was off by that point.
He was off to that. Yeah.
So he gets really drunk, really angry.
He wants to leave. I mean, he downs a decanter. I mean, that's grim. He's offered the chance to do a wine glass or a decanter. Yeah. And he says, "Now I'm draining the decanter," which is
Chad move.
It's sad. Oh, it's sad, but it's like, no, you've broken him.
It's a Chad move.
Yeah.
But that does underline instant. I mean, that's your first massive ramp up. And he's not messing around. You're just going to get murked if you try and leave.
Yeah, I mean, by round one person's died and everyone's getting electrocuted. It's obviously there's going to be a lot more. So, I guess that's a summary of it.
That's cool.
Can I just add to that? So there was a couple of bits as well. The old lady, just to mention that Iris actually has the briefest encounter with her beforehand when she opens a door for her to the hospital before meeting Lambrick. The other bit is Lambrick's son. What was his character's name? What was his name? And then Julian. That's it. Julian. Now, it just reminded me, because Empire rule number 1: don't pee off the penguin. For those who don't know, the guy who plays Julian in Would You Rather plays Oswald Cobblepot, aka the Penguin in Gotham. So there's a bit of a backstory, like briefly discussed prior to the game starting. But you've got Lambrick getting ready, and Julian's getting ready as well, and they sort of allude to a incident that took place the year prior. You don't find out what it is at that point, but basically Lambrick goes over the rules again with Julian, just to establish, look, you do not touch, you can talk, you can interact, but you must not touch or disturb during the game. And it's quite interesting, because I think it leads into the second round when the Jambok's introduced. Because obviously there's a bit of an interlude between the first and second game. So I didn't mean to jump in, but if you wanted to carry on with that bit, I just wanted to add in that there were other that Julian as well is actually quite an important part of that table.
No, he is he's quite a fascinating character and acted. He's a creepy character, acted really well.
Yeah,
he could have been played off a lot more sort of snotty, but there's more menace in him. But like, this first round is just so interesting, I think, because you think you'd take the hit, but it shows already it kind of breaks down. Like, there is some interesting theme work there already, and like, okay, how united are you going to stay when you're sort of you've got skin in the game, as it were.
Yeah, and you had Sasha Grey already saying, look, the point of this is to eliminate everyone.
Yeah.
Only one person's going to survive. So she starts trying to, she's already trying to, kill the old woman by electrocuting her straight away. She thinks people who, take the hit themselves are idiots, as you can tell from her facial expressions. She actually, I mean, for a porn star, she acts quite well in it, to be fair.
But she was really, I thought she did a great job.
Yeah.
She's done many great jobs, I will say.
Yeah, I think
Sorry.
I think my problem with her is that I've seen some of her Twitch stream clips, and I can't get that out of my mind when I'm watching her in this. So I guess it's a me problem. But she wasn't like terrible, but she was, above porn actress grade, which is a very low bar, I know. So I mean, there's not too much more to say on round one. It's more kind of it's showing that most people do have a team spirit, especially when it comes to saving the women.
Oh,
But
definitely.
then,
It does test it as well. It kind of shows the limit, and it makes them have sort of skin in the game. And
yeah, and
actually,
go on.
yeah, phase 2 is when obviously
Yeah.
it's the intensifier, because it gets switched up, obviously. And I want to point out at this point, it's a really interesting plot, because you're effectively in this sort of straitjacket of a plot. Once you're in, you know pretty much from the start it's going to go with an elimination, and it's going to get more and more intense each time, and there's pretty much no escape. Like, it has to that is absolutely obvious from the start. It's not trying to surprise you, really. It's getting its power from the dread that you get, that actually, no, this is going to keep going round, and it's going to get worse and worse.
Yeah, definitely. And I mean, if we're moving on to round 2, there's a bit of an interlude between where the ex-army guy, I can't remember his name.
Yes.
He just starts getting really annoyed at Julian, because Julian starts basically taunting them. He starts calling them pigs, just because he's rich and a prick, basically. And so Julian basically gets up and has a go at him, and saying basically he's going to kill him if he can get his hands on him. To which Amy basically says, "Oh, you shouldn't have done that."
Yep.
And so what happens next round? They come in and plaster up all the floors and the walls with some sort of plastic to obviously, because things are going to get messy. So
It's a wonderful detail, isn't it? Like,
yeah,
I know I got tense when they started doing that. It really builds up the atmosphere.
I just got Dexter vibes.
Yeah.
When that
I know
happens.
what you mean. Yeah. So I mean, I'll give someone else the round 2.
Yes. And then round 2, it's, again, it's the same. There is one challenge. It is a choice of stabbing someone with an ice pick, or hitting someone with a shambok, a hard whipping stick. With the twist here, because you can't just do round 2 again. You can't. I mean, it would be sorry. You can't do round 1 again. It would be slightly different because you were choosing the victim. But in this one, it's the fact that the twist is the second option, the jambok, is always applied to Travis, who stood up to Julian. This time, it's a completely different feel, because one person is being victimized. That totally changes the game.
Which was, which I think definitely was because of his back, because he gave Julian lip, definitely.
I mean, I almost wonder how like performative it is. Like, behind the scenes, do they arrange that Julian comes in and basically pisses them off until he gets a victim? Sorry for dropping a swear there. I try and keep it family friendly, but
I think that's a good point. I mean, again, without sort of jumping the gun, these challenges, are designed to kill. They're not, they're not supposed to have, you're not supposed to end the game with 8 people, still sitting around at the table, battered and bruised. There need to be dead. There need to be actual victims throughout the course of the game, and the idea is there should only be one person left. So
I think. Sorry, man. Go ahead.
No. That was it, really.
Oh, okay. I was just going to say, I feel like phase 1, the electrocution, is about kind of building them up. Like, they all see themselves as against Lambrick and the game, and that they'll see, will they take one for the team or not? And then phase 2 is designed to break them down.
Yeah, definitely. Because they don't. Go on. You finish.
They can't take it themselves that time. They have to victimize someone.
Yeah, but they don't. Yeah, they have to for a start. They know that, but then when it gets to Travis's turn, which is the second turn, then he either chooses himself or to ice pick someone's leg.
Yeah.
And interestingly, it's do you take one yourself, or he's just, she's just whipped you 3 times. Iris has whipped you 3 times. Like, you're gonna stab her, and he chooses to take 3 more lashes.
Yeah.
And it's kind of at that point. At that point, then next it's Peter or Ricky from Trailer Park Boys. He's then asked the same thing: do you stab Iris or do you give him 3 more lashes? And he says, well, he's definitely got to die, but she's paralyzed from the waist down. She won't feel it. Let's go for that.
I had a problem with that. I had a problem, not with the decision, but just the fact that again, it almost feels like he never actually left the Ricky character behind, because he screwed that up right and royally. Don't get me wrong, like that. Obviously you've got your arteries and stuff on the sort of inside of your legs that you can burst. I'm thinking, if you're going to stab someone in the leg, sure, it's going to hurt, but stab them sort of like on the outside of the thigh, because you're not going to exactly, because you're not going to burst any sort of like main arteries or anything like that. And
all he's told is by the doctor, all he's told is get it in and out quickly.
Yeah,
that's all he's told. But but then straight after, he clearly doesn't know any medical knowledge, because he's
tourniquet, is it below or right?
It's like, I can't remember, is it above or below? It's like above.
Yeah, I'm sorry, God.
Yeah.
I don't have any PGDs.
It's like a weird moment of dark humor when they switch to Trailer Park Boys guy, Ricky, I'm going to call him, and he's just like, his justification is kind of it nicely switches attention. It's kind of horrific that he's going to stab this old woman, but he's kind of darkly comic about it too. He's like, you don't really use those legs. I think it's a well-needed bit of humor. Like, this film uses humor quite well, I think.
And the logic is sound as well at the same time. Like, it's fun, it's funnily presented, but like, come on, love, you're wheelchair bound and you can't feel your legs. So if I do it right, it'll be it'll bleed, but you'll live. Oh wait, no, I didn't. I stabbed the main artery.
Yeah, and she ends up dying from it as well, which is pretty grim. But he never really has to reflect on that, other than he just says, "Oh, you saw me, I tried," and that's it. He's kind of dropped after that.
Yeah, I do love that Linda, the old lady who's just been stabbed, just like gets her revenge on the Amy for just like
she just stabs her. Yeah,
I think it's
instantly.
I think what's particularly telling about the choices that Ricky makes within the film are sort of synonymous with his character, because the whole reason why he's there is that he's wrangled up all of these gambling debts through bad decision making, and here he is presented with a decision and makes a very bad decision.
Yeah. It's but then you get onto Amy or Sasha Gray's choice, and this is when things like got more interesting for me, because then her choice was either she can whip him again and he's already like on the floor, almost dying, and but her choice is she can stab anyone in the room. So from there she says, well, I'm trying to pick people off. The only person not injured yet is Iris. And then when she gets there, she asks, "Oh, does it have to be the thigh?" And he just says, "Oh, that's he says, "Oh, that's an interesting one." He starts getting entertaining and thinks, and before he even says like from the neck down, she's already stabbing her. But he kind of didn't care. It was just interesting that clearly the rules are just becoming really arbitrary, and he's just there for his own personal entertainment. Like, there's no solid foundation anymore with these rules. Anything can happen.
Did you also? I'm sorry to go back again, but did you mention as well in the first round when they were doing the electrocutions? That no, it was that round, wasn't it? Pam, was it Pam, the old lady?
Linda.
I think Linda. So Linda. Amy's the first one to break rank and just
stabbed Sasha in the leg, and sorry, wife came in, but elbowed her in the face, and it's just like, I felt so sorry for that old dear. She was the only character I had any sort of empathy for.
She did nothing wrong.
I know. So why was she even there?
It's also really interesting at that moment that you've identified, Harry, because that is
Mm.
a real pivot in this film, and the film has these moments of like intensification, where you think we know what the game is, and it sticks within the rule of the game, but it suddenly intensifies it in a slight twist of a direction, which keeps it interesting. So, like Travis being targeted repeatedly with a Jambok in phase 2. That's your first big intensification.
Yeah.
And then Amy getting the free reign to stab anyone is a second intensification because she spells it out just like you said. But this moment, this intensification with Amy, that comes after 2 comic moments, and it's like your guard is down. You've just laughed a bit because of this really dark humor, and the film's suddenly ramping it up and catching you, and you're like, oh crap.
Yeah,
She's
like, well, yeah, because Iris gets stabbed in the side, in like a side, just below her ribs, I think. And the doctor's saying like, oh, she's missed your arteries, like you're gonna be okay, just keep pressure on it. He's quite an important character to have because he's kind of the one saying, right, they're gonna die, they're probably not gonna die. It gives the audience kind of level as to who's really in danger and who's not. And then he gets the nice black guy at the end, and he just basically says, well, guy on the floor who's been whipped 12 times at this point, probably dead at this point anyway, may as well just literally whip a dead man.
Pretty much.
I mean, that really surprised me because Eddie Steeples, like, he's got a cheerful face. I know him from comedy. Him doing that really catches me out every time I watch this film.
Well, I've never seen. Was it ER he's from? I've never seen him in anything else.
My Name is Earl.
Sorry, yeah.
That's cool. That's cool.
Yeah, so I mean, yeah, we're kind of all. I mean, me and obviously me and Teabag recognizing a porn star and so on from Trailer Park Boys. We've kind of focused on them a lot, and then you focused on a different actor. It's kind of a meta thing with this film, but it is interesting to see these usually upbeat people now in a situation where they can't be, and they're basically fighting for their lives. But I think that's it for round 2. Is it then we have the escape bit?
Yeah, and let's face it, that had to happen.
Yeah,
One, you need to get everyone out the room because, gosh darn it, we've been in there a long time, and it's hard to do everything in one room. I mean, there's Alfred Hitchcock's Rope, there's Buried, but you need to change location, guys. People get antsy.
Wasn't Phone Booth very much a one?
Yeah, Phone Booth. Another good one. Oh, nice one, man. Yeah, bottle episodes, they get tense. Bottle films, you need to let people break out. And also, I'm surely you had been asking yourself at this point, why aren't they trying to escape? Like, there's only so long that threat can be ignored, right?
Yeah.
I mean, you first, Tebow.
Oh, no, you go first, mate.
I was just going to say, I wouldn't be too surprised if they never tried to escape in that film because they see just how quickly they are willing to shoot people who go against the rules. And then, but she leaves with the ice pick, doesn't she? Because she kind of gets caught by one of the butlers, so she just stabs him in the arm.
I thought that was a great bit of action. I thought that was directed beautifully.
Yeah, it's quite a good escape scene. Then obviously the black guy gets shot by Coombs as he tries to approach him with. I think he's completely unarmed, but still, I get why he was shot.
He had the Jambok.
Oh, he did. Yeah, he was armed. Sorry. So yeah, quite a lot happens there. Some get subdued because they have a gun pointed at them. Others have an arm around their neck. Obviously, My Name is Earl guy picks up the Shambok and gets shot, and Iris is the only one to escape. So it's like, he shouts, "Why is the door unlocked?" And I'm kind of like, yeah, why is the door unlocked? Because they locked it around the first round. So, and I don't think they were actually leaving after round 2 at that point. But yeah, so but she's like hiding around the house. I think she goes into kind of a mini kitchen or utility room or something.
What can I say? I believe there was an interesting line in this obscure horror film, Scream, from 1996, directed by
Yeah.
written by Kevin Williamson.
Yeah.
Why are they always running up the stairs when they should be running out the front door? It's insulting. There we
Yeah.
go. We got it in, guys. We got
Yeah,
the Scream
that's true,
reference
yeah.
in.
Get in.
I mean, did she try the front door?
No, I don't think she did.
No.
Right. Okay. Well, I mean, to be fair, I'd assume it's locked anyway. If I were in that position, I mean, I guess she'd try, but I'm not too bothered about that because it's obviously it's not her house, and why wouldn't you assume the door's locked? All right. I think the bad part comes in is when she's in that room, and then she goes through the only other door in that room that's not locked, with the stairs, and then when the butler, what was it, Bakley or something,
Evan.
he goes in the room, tries the locked door, sees the other door, sees the stairs, just closes the door. And I don't get why he did that. You're after her before she can escape. And then obviously she's in the underground bit. Julian, he finds her unlucky because he's a rapist, basically. So he subdues her, starts sexually harassing her. He doesn't quite get to the rapey bit, but then he gets stabbed by her. And then, heroic black guy's there, Doctor, whatever he's called. And he does his monologue and just gets shot. That's that scene. I mean, I'm fine with my, expectations being subverted, but well, I mean, I could see it a mile off, but it is a subversion. Like, you think he's going to do something more.
Yeah.
But I mean, we went through before, like, why not go to the police and all this stuff? Because I think he could have made that interesting, more interesting than that.
I think there is an interesting thing here in the theme, which is that I think like it's similar to Saw, where you have the mastermind who can't bring in anyone who continue his vision. Like the acolytes are always just twisted.
Yeah.
Although it's not like Jeffrey Combs' character Lambrick isn't twisted, but it's interesting, like the breakdown, and I kind of think there's some symbology there about the intense luxury and what that breeds. There's definitely like this interesting resentment for those low down, and I think it's something I repeatedly see from elites, and it's interesting that has made that into this film.
Yeah, it is interesting, and then I don't know. I was a bit underwhelmed by the whole escape scene, I'll say.
With the escape bit, I think it was kind of. I wasn't expecting it to be a massively successful break. I think the idea of that was. I mean, sorry, I sort of dipped out for a little bit, but I mean, I think the idea of that particular moment in the film was just to create the scene that these guys are really, up shit's creek without a paddle. They're not going to get out, and if one of them does, which they do, they're not going to get out of the house. It's hopeless. Play the game, get it done, and then go home or go out in a body bag.
There's a certain amount of I think good screenwriting here. Like, we know inevitably that we've got to get the numbers down. Sorry to sort of I'm pulling the curtain back a bit here. You need to visually break up the film and get them out of the room occasionally, so we have an escape attempt with big action, and you can off two characters as well in that scene. So handy for that reason.
Helps with the runtime, doesn't it?
It does. It does. And this is a cheeky 90-minute film.
Yeah, that's what I'll say. It just felt like padding to me, which is, if you're trying to get to that 90-minute runtime, fine. But I if I was the writer, I think I just want. I don't want to say put more effort into it, because you might put a lot of effort into it, but there's not an easy way to say make it better. As I say before, you can maybe have an interesting thing with police coming in and inspecting the house, and you hide the guests, things like that. I mean, this is just off the top of my head, but I mean, I'm not, fix the script in any way I can think of quickly, but obviously I'm not a screenwriter, so.
I guess it depends on how much they wanted to develop
to... Oh, she's muted. They're both muted. Oh no.
I'm still here. I'm still here.
Sorry, Derp.
Yeah.
I was saying, like, it depends how much they want to develop the social commentary aspect of this, because that's obviously in there. This is a thing where you have an awful elite just playing with poor people's lives, and that terrible, the medical debt, etc., etc. They're obviously playing social commentary there, and in fairness, it's not pushed very hard. It's very safe targets, as it were. There are some things I like I just mentioned, the idea that the sort of children of luxury tend to have fairly severe character flaws, as exhibited by Julian, and the notion that all the rules are actually completely flexible. That's sort of standard elite theory, like it's set up to benefit them, but it will change. And if they wanted to build on that more, absolutely having police come and just effectively not bother, be tipped off, get called in from their chief to ignore it. They could develop that theme quite well with that, without adding too much to the runtime.
Sorry to be a pain. Have we got to the point when Julian caught up with Iris yet? Have we?
Oh yeah. We just covered that, the abortive rescue attempt.
Okay. Because
Yeah.
have we talked about the bit when she's back in, and obviously Lambrick gets told what happened? We
No, we're about to move on.
We haven't got there yet.
Okay. No, that's fine.
Good.
I'm
Do you want to cover that?
Yeah. So obviously Lambrick, Bevans, the butler,
I love Bevans.
comes into the room. Oh yeah, he's brilliant.
He's so good.
Just typical proper British. He comes into the room, obviously on his own with Iris. Lambrick says, where's Julian, and pulls him over to one side, and he's like, and he's like, okay, yeah. And he's basically like, okay, yeah. Oh God, oh no. Lambrick sort of heading his hand. Oh my God. He's like, ladies and gentlemen, I've just been informed that unfortunately Julian won't be able to continue for this evening. And then he walks over to Iris, and he puts his left hand on her shoulder, sort of comes down, and he's like, I'm so terribly sorry for what my son tried to do to you. Please be assured that we will, basically give him a good rollicking. So fully embarrassed and ashamed of as to what Julian did. I will point this out, a continuity error, and that scene where he puts his hand on her shoulder, in the same, when it pans to the next clip, he's pulling his right hand off her shoulder. So I will just mention that. I got, if anyone's seen The Walking Dead or has read the comics, that scene, that particular moment reminded me of Negan from The Walking Dead. Negan is a character who's absolutely psychotic, has no problem with pummeling someone's face in or doing anything horrific to somebody to make a point. He gets a kick out of it, very much like Lambrick does. But the moment you bring sexual abuse into it, involving, the R word, if you will, he's completely disgusted by it and repulsed by it, and is wholly against it. It was a weird sort of clash of morals there. Empire puts it perfectly. R bad, murder good, basically. And the distinction there was that he finds something like that more morally repulsive than actually taking someone's life. Is an interesting concept. But then at the same time, the more I thought about it, I felt perhaps Lambrick wasn't so bothered by what Julian had tried to do from the, oh my God, I can't believe you do that to a woman perspective. I think he was more annoyed that Julian broke the rules.
Yeah, I'm really interested in their relationship, because I just don't know how much of it is a show, how ultimately bothered he was. Maybe it was breaking the rules, like you said.
I think,
I had a note from earlier, when Travis is, he's beaten to death with a sjambok, he's out. And it's a really dark, humorous moment that Lambrick comes and informs everyone that because Travis can't get up and participate anymore. He is out. He's eliminated. And
Yeah.
his son just gives this really sort of like faux disappointed, like,
Yeah.
oh. And it's really nicely judged. It's like, oh, you suck, you sod. You don't. But it just feels like, I don't know. I'm interested in how much of it is just a bit of performative back and forth between them all. It's
a good point. Yeah. So I mean, it's sort of three angles then. If you look at it, it could be performative. It could be the fact that he's actually truly repulsed by someone doing that to a woman, or it could be more like Julian shouldn't have broke the rules, and I'm sorry that he stepped out of line. He shouldn't have acted outside the conditions that we've set for the game.
I think I think it's more to do with ironically consent. Because at the start of the game, he offers everyone the chance to leave. And so at that point, he thinks, right, so all these people kind of know they're in for, like, at the very least, an odd night. And it involves the rules that include the fact that they can either choose to harm themselves or others. But there's going to be nothing sexual about that. And there's going to be nothing. And, you know, me and my son or the butlers aren't going to be involved in this other than facilitating the rules. And then when Julian doesn't do that and just starts trying to have his way with her, that's when it's like, right, he's broken what they have consented to, so he needs to be punished for that. So I think it's more to do with that than, you know, necessarily. Well, I think it'd always be disgusted by but murder, I guess he'd say, well, you had the choice to join this game or not. So
and that's an interesting observation. Like, I don't know if I'm weird about this, but it's I can watch killing a lot easier in a lot of different tones, and have different emotions evoked. Whereas if you're going for sexual violence, I feel that does tend to make things so very intense that it really kind of overrides a lot of vibes. Like this film kind of, tell me what you think about it, but I think it rides the line between fairly intense grimness balanced with dark comedy. And I think if you bring sexual violence into it, you're really going to struggle to make any of that dark comedy work, and you're then just in for a really, really grim film.
Yeah. You talk about being more disturbed by that. This is a little bit off topic, but have you ever seen the film Straight Heads? Gillian Anderson, Danny Dyer?
No, I've never seen that. I've never heard of it.
Maybe look it up. I think it was like 2007 or something like that. But the scene, there is a scene with Gillian Anderson in it, and it's quite disturbing, to say the least. And I think when there is sort of there's a special kind of repulsion for that kind of thing, rather than just seeing somebody's head getting caved in or backlashed by a shambok, or, you know, something along those lines. There's something that hits you on more of an emotional level, I suppose.
I really want to send in a super chat and try and have AA say shambok. I just realised how much I wanted that. Yes, always. Yeah, I mean, maybe think back to when Game of Thrones was being watched, and every time there was sexual violence, masses of complaints. You know, a few hearts getting knifed out.
Yeah, Empire. That's
it's fair enough. We've got a cultural sensitivity there. But
we live in an R culture. I've heard the feminists. But I mean, I guess, is that everything we have to say? We're going to move on to round 3.
I mean, round 3 is the interesting one. We sort of cover the themes that we're on, the elite theory, where rules are flexible. We've gone to, but round 3 is like, you're down to 4 people now. Now, the setup for this, as people know, is you are offered a mystery envelope, the unknown, or you have to be held underwater in a barrel of water, obviously, by your mad boy Bevan there.
Mad
2
lad.
minutes.
Yeah.
Now, and they get the choice. No one knows what's in the envelopes, but you can guess it's pretty bad. And your boy Ricky gets a really interesting speech about the scenario, doesn't he?
Yeah. But again, this is sort of what I talked about earlier with him and his decision making, given the fact that he's a gambler who's heavily in debt. And yeah, sorry, I didn't mean to jump in, but yeah.
I mean, what is he says? He basically goes into game theory, thinking, well, I'm a gambler. You're gonna know I'm a gambler.
Internet.
Yeah. So he basically, I mean, he goes on for about 2-3 minutes, which is it's fine. It's a good speech. I'm just trying to summarize it. So he's saying, right, I'm a gambler. You know all the decisions I might make. You might know that I work this out as well because I'm a gambler. I mean, he's saying he's supposed to have 30 seconds on the clock, but I'm sure it goes on for more.
I know.
Yeah.
He definitely goes over. I did time this.
How long did he go on for then?
Oh, well, he kind of gets waved on, like he's close to a minute in discussing it. But as we've established, the rules are pretty flexible here.
Yeah.
When Lambert wants them to be.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, because he says, what does he say? He basically says, right, you think I'm going to choose this main option, and then that's going to set the tone for the rest of them to think, are they going to want the barrel, or are they going to want to risk what I get? So in the end, he just says, well, I'm going to do that because I think you think I'm going to choose the barrel, the safe option, because I know what's there. But obviously, you think I know that, so I think you've made this fairly safe.
Ricky shows 4D chess.
Yeah, which he ends up basically, the cards only have pictures on, so they have to ask him, right, what does this actually mean? And at that point, I think it could be arbitrary, but it does seem to reflect what's on the card. So he gets like a firework, and he's like, oh, what's this? And he's like, oh, you just have to let a firecracker go off in your hand. And so he's like, oh, cool, that's fine. And then it turns out it's a massive firecracker. They says like, oh, well, that's a 25 pointer or something like that. I can't remember.
Like a quarter stick.
That's the one. Yeah.
I loved how they did this. I mean, they clearly didn't have a lot of money for it, but I loved how they did this.
And the doctor's like, oh, just drop it, don't hold it too tight, let it try and drop at the last second. And he just goes, no, Evan, attach it to his hand, and he sellotapes it round, duct tapes it round, so he doesn't have a chance. I think I was enjoying this bit up to the point where kind of it blew off his hand, and bits fly everywhere. It zooms in on his face, and it just shows him being like tense and then just shocks. But then he just collapses and has a heart attack, and that was another thing that just kind of came out of nowhere. They clearly needed him to die, and I just think it would have been better if it's like when they're going through why people are here, it's like, oh, he needs money for his heart problems, he tried to gamble for it and things like that. But that was never really developed. I felt.
I would just challenge. He obviously isn't physically the most in shape person. He's already in a high pressure scenario, and then he's just witnessed his own hand being blown off. I could forgive it.
I can believe it.
But I do understand where you're coming from. No, I do agree with you. I think actually, if he did have a sort of a backstory whereby, he was gambling to try and, I don't know, because quite a few people are there for medical reasons. You've got Iris, Empire quite rightly pointed out. I think Linda, the old lady, she was obviously there for her own medical bills. It would stand to reason that perhaps someone else could be there to try to make money through other means, and it's just gone completely belly up. So that also would work.
I'd also point this out. This is a really good observation from Empire. I mean, there's some flexibility there. Like, I hadn't actually picked this up, but I think that's a really good point, that the cards are very nondescript, and frankly, apart from the final one with 4 minutes in the barrel, there's a lot of leeway for interpretation there. Yeah. So the big question, I want to talk about the structure quickly, because I thought this was, again, great screenwriting, genuinely good stuff, done so well. 2 people in a row skip the barrel, and the 2 minutes underwater in the barrel is a kind of interesting challenge, because you can kind of picture it. And what I want to know is, did you guys test yourselves too? Did you try and hold your breath for 2 minutes?
Do you know what? In this run, I didn't, but I distinctly remember trying to do it the first time I watched it when I many years ago. It was one of the scenes that I remembered quite well. In fact, the only thing I misremembered was that particular card which said 4 in it. I for some reason thought it said 10, but other than that, I remembered that scene. That stuck out to me quite well.
I will point out that the film cheated again, and she was actually only underwater on screen for 90 seconds.
Yeah.
I was holding my breath. I made it about 85, and I couldn't get beyond that. So 2 minutes, kudos. Although Jeffrey Combs mentions when Sasha Grey is skeptical about 4 minutes underwater, that it's far from the world record, and he's absolutely right. Do you want to know the world records for holding your breath underwater?
I know the world record for holding your breath underwater because I googled it.
Did your research? All right, brilliant.
Yeah.
Yes,
I'll let you
educate me.
Okay, so for a female, it is 18 minutes and 32 seconds.
Oh my god!
And for a male, it is 24 minutes and 3 seconds.
Yep.
Now that's not your head being pushed underwater in a barrel by an ex-MI5 guy who looks a bit North FC. It's I watched a few videos on it, and you basically have to be floating in water. You have to hyperventilate for ages beforehand. You have to be in the perfect condition where you go into a meditative state. Your boy David Blaine managed it on TV for 8 minutes, so it is doable. But this kind of high stress scenario, not ideal for it.
No, I mean, this is the thing that when that challenge was being played out, I think, like, I don't have the greatest lung capacity, but given what happened before in the previous rounds, I would have taken my chances with the barrel. You know,
I mean, after the first one, that the hand blown off, you'd go with the barrel, right?
Yeah, exactly. I'm thinking, right, okay, well, 2 minutes, okay, it's not comfortable, but deep breath, happy thoughts, think of England. You might make it out the other side. You're gonna, I mean, and in the greater scheme of things, it's not the most horrible way to go out. I mean, drowning is quite bad, but speaking from experience from someone who nearly drowned once, you do kind of get to a point where you almost don't realize you are where you are, and there's no pain. And so, again, I'm getting a bit deep here. But if let off a firecracker on my hand, get stabbed in the leg, shot in the chest, I'm thinking, the barrel doesn't seem so bad right now.
Yeah. I mean, Empire says he lied. He said some won't be that bad. I mean, that bad is very relative.
A lie by omission, maybe.
Well, yeah. I mean, getting your tooth taken out, I think
it could have been one tooth, or it could have been all the teeth. He really.
That's true.
And I think Lucas only had. It was just a picture of an eyeball. So, I don't know. It could have been. You could do some nasty things to it without what Lucas was actually asked to do. I mean, and it only had a big moment for me. Like, this is one of those like operatic moments that it builds up to. It's like it's such unusual violence that it sticks in your head. How did you feel about Lucas going for the envelope that said he had to slice his eye open?
Yeah, my highlight for the scene, I'd say.
Yeah, that for me was peak acting. Like, seriously, and I don't mean that from an ironic sense, like, but that for me, the terror. Man, I was there with him. The saliva screaming, the saliva spitting out. I was like, I can't do it. Oh man, no.
Because he's there for 30 seconds. He kind of tries it a bit. He's like, oh no. He's like, no, I can't do it. And then obviously he gets the gun out to the back of his head, and he's like, he does he shout the F word, or does he just scream?
He loses it. He's at breaking point, and so are we. I mean, like, it's believable. You can imagine it, but you can't. It's sort
Yeah.
of on the edge of what you can imagine, while still
Mm.
being more pain than you would believe.
Yeah.
But
And
it's,
yeah,
gosh.
yeah, it's grim, but it does what it did before with the firecracker, where it zooms in on his face, then when he's about to do it, it just pans away, so you don't actually see the violence. And I think I think that was a good choice for cinematography. I think it doesn't have to be Saw levels of grim. Just imagining it's just as bad, because then you only ever see his eye closed after that.
So one thing I would say with that particular challenge compared to the other ones, while it's extremely uncomfortable, yes, it would be extremely painful, and just the concept of having anything going near your eye induces probably the strongest reactions out of that you can imagine. I struggle to think how it could kill you, because again, going back to it, would you rather eye or die? I struggle to see how that would actually kill you, when the challenges that are given to you, or the options are given, are supposed to have the capacity of ending you.
Yeah, that probably is the lighter one. I mean,
I think that was probably put in there just for the dramatic effect, and just for the sheer horror value of it. Having
it's a standout defining moment. Like, it's the equivalent of the jaw being ripped off in The Grudge, or let's just say some of the end moments of Silence of the Lambs, or I thought the end of Gerald's Game. It's meant to be the moment that you remember. I mean, it's on the poster of the film because it is iconic, and I love it.
Yeah, it was.
Folks, have we asked yet? You've got through to round 4. Are you going for the envelope, or are you going for the barrel?
I'm go on.
As I said earlier, bucket for me.
Yeah,
barrel. Barrel for me.
I'd go for
take my chances with that.
So I've held my breath for more than 2 minutes before. So
yeah,
not since I was about 12, but if I could do it at 12, I could probably do it now.
I wasn't a smoker the last time I could do that, and that was.
I wonder if chat has just been timing it and just trying if they could get to 2 minutes.
Yeah,
chat, give it a go now.
I do.
Give it a go now. Hold your breath. Do hyperventilation for 30 seconds, and then see how far you can get.
Yeah,
I want to know, Empire. How long can you last, mate?
Can we set this challenge for health and safety reasons?
Oh,
disavow. Do it in Minecraft.
Chat, kill yourselves.
in Minecraft.
Yeah. Harvey Biden.
Harvey Biden.
So, I was going to say, you were saying before about how some of these challenges are designed to kill. Some of them don't. It's not. I don't think necessarily he's trying to. I mean, obviously he's trying to eliminate people, but we don't actually know if the guy who got whipped died. All we're told is he can't participate anymore.
No, they do. They mention that he's not going to live, but he'll either live for hours, days, or weeks. But he's screwed. Yeah. So it's alluded to the fact that he's going to die, because they're not going to give him any medical treatment, so they're just going to let him suffer.
True.
Might even just off him outside of the room. But
yeah, true. But I mean, when it comes to the this round's challenges, I don't necessarily think it's he's trying to kill people, because I don't think he expected.
He is. I'm going to just sorry.
Right.
But he says after Iris completes the barrel,
that's designed.
That's designed to kill you. It's designed to kill people.
Yeah.
And so.
Sure, but my point is that when it came to Peter's hand being blown off, he didn't expect the heart attack. I think he was just expecting him to go in pain. And would you rather risk pain that could potentially kill you more horribly than drowning, or would you rather drown?
Yeah, but I suppose.
It's not necessarily a death thing, and it's the barrel one.
But what I mean is sorry. So yeah, I mean obviously with the firecracker is a good like you bring up. There's every chance that he's going to survive but be severely injured from that. My point is that the razor blade one, I don't see how he could die from slicing his eye. That's what I'm saying. Like everything presented has the potential to kill you, from electrocutions to stabbings to shambos to all that stuff. It's literally just that eye. I mean, don't get me wrong. Like it's arguably the worst thing that could happen, even if it doesn't kill you. Like there's no question in my mind that it's just. I mean, just even looking at the image that's on the screen right now, man, it's just unnerving. Much more so than sticking around underwater or having a firecracker go off in your hand. But just in terms of life-threatening side of it, I just don't see how it could. I don't know. You could have a heart attack and die just like good old Ricky did, from the sheer fact of just doing it. But
yeah, that's what's getting me. The deaths are so random. I don't think he's set like, all right, we're going to do 4 rounds, and there's definitely going to be one person, but 2 people by the end of this. I don't know how other years have gone. So what I'm saying is, I think he's just trying to get people to have pain, to go through pain. And if they die, that's kind of part of the intention anyway.
Trying
to kill them.
You know what this film needs?
What?
No, not a spooky showdown. It needs a sequel or a prequel.
I'd go, a prequel. A prequel
I have
could
news
work.
on that. I have news on that.
Oh,
okay.
Okay. Well, apparently they are setting up a prequel where one of the participants has to be by a trolley track, and the train's going along, and it's set to run over 5 people. But if they pull this lever, sorry.
You're lying here. Terrible.
Oh, I knew it all.
You've got me excited to watch the prequel for this then. Which I think is more annoying.
But I would say the prequel should be with the doctor who gets the useless hero.
Yeah,
it had to have. I mean, obviously it's too late in the. It's too long in the tooth now for it now, but. Yeah. I think you needed either a prequel or a follow-up shortly after this, just to build some sort of foundation to the game.
They were talking it, and I would watch the heck out of it.
Me too.
Yeah.
So they get to the end.
Yeah.
And it is at that point, it is Lucas with his messed up eye, and Iris. And of course, like, this is the cruelest kick in the teeth. At that point, like, it's such a test. It's like your sunk cost fallacy is at play, because they can both just walk out empty-handed at this point, which is really sick.
Yep.
Or get down to 1.
I'm sure it's been mentioned, but can we just point a fact out that the main character's name is Iris? And
that's a good point. So I mean, the last round is basically all determined by a coin flip. Well, at first it's determined by a coin flip, and then it's Iris wins it, and it's like, oh, it's your decision now. You can either both go home empty-handed, or you can kill him and win the money. This was a scene I think kind of didn't quite work for me. I'll say that much, but I'll let both of you give opinions first before I go into that.
Sorry about that.
It's all right.
See, I think it's easy for us to sort of sit in this position and say that, they could both walk out, but think of the reason why they went there in the first place.
Yeah.
Obviously, she's got this other guy in front of her at the moment that, is obviously begging for his life, essentially. We can go out. But her brother's at home, who needs a bone marrow transplant. He's going to die without it.
Yeah,
and Lambrick's offering her the opportunity to get him that. Imagine that was your brother or sister, or your son or your daughter. What would you do? I know what I would do.
I mean, her shooting him isn't my issue. I think that's fine. I guess I'll go into my issue. My issue is that she just shoots him halfway through his story, and I think it would work better if we had a backstory for him, because I didn't feel bad that she shot him.
I think again, if again, just trying to put it in the perspective of her shoes, he's obviously giving her the life story. I don't think she wanted to. I don't think she wanted to hear it because she knew what she wanted to do, and she didn't want to feel any more bad about doing it. Because again, if I was presented that option, if it was my child in the position that she was in, I'd do the same. I would do the same as her. Put it that way.
This is actually. Sorry to interrupt.
And I wouldn't. Oh, sorry. No, go on.
No, please.
And I was going to say, like, obviously, in an ideal world, you'd never obviously do anything like that. But I think if you're in that position where you know that you can save, a family member's life or, someone, close, near and dear to you, at the end of the day, you're just looking across the table to someone who you have no emotional connection to. Yes, you've gone through this experience with them, but they're not your family,
No,
it really runs you through a lot of ethical tests, and
exactly.
One thing I want to say, like I brought up the trolley problem as a joke, but I think the best dissection of the trolley problem is there's a video by Clossington about it, where he points out that ultimately you don't make utilitarian choices. So if there's 5, 10 or 15 people on the line, but the other one, if you were to divert the train, is your mum or your partner, it's like you aren't touching that lever. And ultimately in this one, it is. I mean, this film, we could have a whole second stream breaking down the ethics of it, but this is sort of AA would love this. It's so bleak, and I think honest about human reality. Is that, I mean, if the roles were switched, wouldn't she be? She'd be trying to
beg for her life.
Beg for her life, and would he do the same? It's like
probably not.
We don't judge from this utilitarian position. Queen Boudica, we are discussing Would You Rather. We go full spoilers on the film. We announce the film we're going to talk about in depth in advance. So if you don't want to be spoiled, maybe tap out around now and watch Would You Rather and then come back. I gather the whole thing is on YouTube in HD, which kind of marvels me because I get copyright claimed for almost everything I put in, no matter how much I edit it.
It's on Netflix as well.
It's also on Netflix. Highly worth it. It's Would You Rather from 2013.
I will
say harsh truths in this film. Very harsh truths.
I'll as well. You've changed my mind a bit about this scene actually, because pointing out that she would shoot him at that point, I didn't think she wants to hear nothing about this story because she's just going to feel even worse because clearly he's trying to save someone. I don't know. I guess. I mean, I don't. It might not be possible within the script actually to get across to the audience, because obviously Iris is our POV character. But getting across to the audience what he's actually trying to do might resonate a bit harder, because ultimately I'm just totally empathetic to her shooting him.
She can't do it as well. The film Queen Boudica, the film is Would You Rather from 2013. Okay, give it okay, there you go. Sorry, the chat's a bit delayed. No worries. You can always rewatch this. No worries. Okay. She can't do it if she hears his life story. There's a moment in Margaret Atwood's The Handmaid's Tale where people are on the book.
Go on.
And there's a nicely observed bit where the protagonist's family are about to go on the run and they realize they can't take their pet with them, and the husband has to say, I'll go and take care of it. And it's the use of it, the dehumanizing, is the sort of key that she picks up on. And it's similar here. She can't hear his backstory, and we don't know his backstory. So she just has to cut him off in order to do it.
Well, and she doesn't know how close to 30 seconds she is as well, I suppose.
And there's also the threat as well that he might just turn around and shoot her because I have 3 sisters. Oh, bang. She's got one reason. She's got one reason to be there. He's got three.
Yeah. I mean,
yeah.
yeah.
I mean, if she refused, here's a thought: would Lambrick have then offered him the gun?
That's true.
I think that's what would happen. He would have been given the opportunity. I think. Because he says a very interesting thing before the timer starts, and he says that normally the game's settled by the person who goes first, meaning that this game has been played before, and there have been occasions where the first person couldn't go through with it, but the second person more than willing.
Yeah, good catch. Good catch.
The only thing I'd push back with that is every time there's a choice, the choice is clear, and they always go through with either choice they make. So I don't know if saying, I think if he says both you can go free, if he goes against that, I think that would go against the whole spirit of the game he's set up.
Have you ever seen the game?
Arbitrary, so I don't know.
Yeah, have you ever seen the game show Golden Balls with Jasper Carrot?
Yeah, that's what reminded me of it.
Yeah, it's one of those scenarios. You know, we'll both take the money, or we'll both walk away. We'll both walk away.
God, I remember there was an episode where there's a man and a woman, and the man's just basically saying, right, split the money, it's enough for both of us, and she agrees, and then she steals it, and he says split, and he gets so annoyed.
Yeah.
Like the guy loses faith in humanity that day. It's amazing.
Doom pills, man, Doom pills.
Yeah, literally. Yeah, it was ridiculous.
This whole film is a doom pill.
Yeah,
but that is
like you have your ethics. You will be broken down if the incentives are right.
Yeah,
basically. I suppose we should get to the final doom pill, because I've been singing this film's praises, and I'm now gonna say this really didn't work for me. Let's talk about the very. Can we move to the very ending of the film? I'm conscious that we've gone over 2 hours, so
yeah, that's fine.
I didn't like this. I didn't like it at all.
No,
it seemed like an unnecessary kick in the teeth that came out of nowhere.
Yeah, it was utterly pointless. I mean, they sort of alluded to it anyway, because the kid was like, "Oh, you don't need me in your life. I'm being a burden on you." To be honest, he sounded like my nan, God rest her soul. But if they didn't need to do that, really didn't need to do it.
I think that would have been better as kind of a cliffhanger where she goes in his room and all you hear is a gasp. That might have been a lot better. Or kind of just hear her weeping. Because why is she weeping? Is he dead, or is it because she can't believe that she's just killed someone for him?
Maybe, or even darker, she gets him. She gets him everything, and he's happy, and then it's just like you got to look at her face, and she has to kind of live with what she did, and it would be we've seen that before in things, Last of Us.
Yeah,
that sort of. I like that complex thing of her carrying the burden.
Empire says it in the chat, and it pretty much sums up. It was all for nothing, like Mist.
Yeah,
you know. So
I mean,
it was. Though. I mean,
No, I know. Yeah.
I mean, she might be well. She might be well off now. But the whole reason why she went through all of that stuff was for her brother, and
Italian job. Yeah.
Basically.
No. I mean, this is the thing. I think that can really work. But if you're gonna have it that she's done it all for nothing, you need a bit more than just that last scene where she turns him over twice. I mean, did anyone notice that continuity error?
Yeah.
Oh no, I missed it.
She goes in his room and she sees like the pill pots, and then she turns him over in one scene. She kind of gasps back and goes, "Oh no!" And then next cut, she turns him over again.
Oh darn it! I'm sorry, I slacked off. I missed that one.
No, it's fine. It's not important. It's not that important. It's just quite a funny continuity error because he gets turned over. I'm like, oh, geez, he's dead. Then it does it again. I'm like, oh, geez, he's dead again.
He's
like, why have you done that?
Turn him over a third time.
You have to get round on both sides. What can I say? She's thorough. It didn't fit with anything. Like, if I always try and think of the themes here, and if this is, what was this meant to be like? Ultimately, maybe you shouldn't go with selfish motivations, even though her motivation was to care for someone else, or we should all be in it together, but then he's just offed himself? And is it meant to, what's the meaning of that? What is
I think that was just the typical subvert your expectations, like, oh, everything's going to be okay now. Oh no, he's dead. So you've gone through all of this for nothing. It was just, I couldn't get a message out of it. I mean,
yeah.
you sort of mentioned the whole, don't do things for selfish reasons. But to be honest with you, I think, she was acting pretty selfless throughout the whole film, from essentially giving up her life to look after her sick brother because her mum was I think because her mum had died, to essentially give up her own morals and sense of values for the sake of her brother getting some bone marrow. And even taking the life of other people so that her brother could live, to give him a life. If you ask me, I think she was pretty bloody selfless throughout that film.
Absolutely.
And
she took some licks. It's
she made some massive sacrifices. I mean, they all did. I mean, ultimately, but the reason why they were there was to make sacrifices at the end of it, and they all made sacrifices. And for the person walking away with, with the grand prize, all of that for nothing. What? I mean, okay, Lambrick will probably set her up for life, give her a nice house, pay off the mortgage and stuff like that, but that wasn't why she was there. She wasn't there to pay off her mortgage. She wasn't there to live comfortably. She was there for her brother. There's no payoff there.
No, and I don't think that necessarily makes a bad film. I think
no.
Yeah, no. Just to make clear. But the thing is that she already has to live with the consequences, but she can at least say to herself, hey, at least my brother's living a good life. I killed the man for that completely unjustifiably. But now she can't even say, oh, at least it was for my dying brother. Now, what can she say? All she can say to herself is, I killed the man.
Yeah.
Which I mean, when you think about it, it's like, that's fine. I don't want to go off the themes too much. Because I don't think necessarily I don't think films necessarily have to have themes to be good either. But I think they're useful. I think they're good for portraying themes. But ultimately, what didn't work for me was just how blatant it was about it. It's like, oh, look at all this terrifying stuff she went through. Oh, now here's another doomer pill. It's just like, okay, I'd rather the Italian job it, because then it can be like, because then you get more mixed feelings about it, and it's like, oh, maybe she did do it for nothing, or it's like, oh, she did it all, and at least he's fine now. But
counterfactual suggestion: how would you have felt if they'd have ended it with her final choice with the pistol, shoot Lucas or don't, and it didn't show you her choice, it just showed the clock ticking down?
No.
Oh, Inception. Inception, that bad boy. That, I mean, it would be, I'm sorry, it would be a better ending than the ending that was given. But it would definitely leave it open to interpretation, wouldn't it?
Sure, but you've completely taken out the climax of the film, which I don't think is a good idea.
But then I think what that would do, it would be a good conversation. It would be a good conversation starter with people in the room who are watching it with you. So, Harry, what do you think she did? Do you think she shot her? Do you think she shot him? Do you think not? What would you do? I know I do.
I don't think that's a good enough reason to do that.
No. I'm not saying it is, but I'm just thinking, like, if you were to do something like that, would that be sort of like the thought process behind it? I mean, Inception's a great example with the spinning top, just spinning, end.
Yeah,
was he still in a dream world? Was he in the real world?
Yeah, it was fine in Inception, but that's after the climax where they've already done the incepted their thing. Like, the climax of that film isn't, oh, is he in a dream world or not? The climax is, right, we've done the heist in his brain. So it'd be like stopping Inception before they finish that job, like on the cliffhanger part of that. But I can't remember that film well enough to know where that is exactly. So
that's fair.
Play that scene out. Same ending and everything. But rather than end it at the point where she finds her brother's dead, pans back to her room. She pans back to the room. She's still holding the gun. She's thinking about it still, and then it goes with then it goes with proper horror shit. Yeah, then cut.
I'd call that a cop out if I watched that film.
I will take most things over the sort of unnecessary kick right in the huevos that it delivered.
Yeah, I'd dice.
No gosh darn reason that
I'd take a dice roll on that. Yeah, it was definitely in the lower half of endings you could have written for that film, I'd say.
Yeah. So the question we have to get to, if you don't have anything else on it, how scary did you find it?
One of the less scary ones we've watched. I was less scared, more. So it's more kind of tense.
Okay, yeah. Okay, so next to Alive, scarier than that?
No, I'd say Alive was scarier than that.
Okay.
Yeah, although Alive wasn't that scary either.
Yeah, I wouldn't say that this was. I mean, again, because I've already seen this film, so I knew what I was expecting going into it. But even the first time watching it, I didn't find it was scary, but I felt like you were walking away with that film from that film, asking asking a lot of questions about yourself.
Yeah, it was more psychological. This film.
Yeah.
It was more psycho. Yeah.
I mean, it's definitely horror category, no doubt.
Yeah.
But more for the psychological aspect, like you mentioned, Haryan, definitely.
Yeah, which is fine. I want to hold it against the film that it's not scary, because I don't. Yeah. As I say, not all horror has to have your jump scares and things like that. Because Blind Manor, as we said when we went through it last week, it only properly scared me about 2 or 3 times, and then the rest of it's just tense. Like when you're seeing the, woman walking behind, or when you see the plague doctor. Did you watch a compilation of that, by the way, T-Bug? Where
yeah, I did. So I just saw Admiral Belzadil in the chat. Nice. If in doubt and in need of an ending, go with Sasquatch turning up holding a duck.
That would have been better. I would have taken that. But yeah,
It was actually the first thing I did after the Blind Manor stream. I went, right, okay, let's have a look at these.
So you saw the scene where they're like all in the kitchen, and then the plague doctor's just crouched in like the fireplace.
And there was one with like one of the child ghosts just in the table as they're sitting around it.
Oh, you see his hands,
his hands, bruh.
Yeah. This is what I mean. That it's kind of like. It wasn't that type of scary, this film, but on a scale of rating how scary a film was, like that would be pretty low. That's more like tension and a kind of what the hell's going on here type of horror.
Tension and dread. That's cool. That's
cool. Yeah, because that just to make clear what my scale of scares is, it's kind of more, was I frightened for my life, or was I questioning what was going on, and were questions being asked, and that's more what this film's about.
Yeah.
But I think, I don't know how controversial this is, but I think it could have done a lot of that better personally. But I think it did a decent job at asking these questions. And to be honest, you two have made me ponder it a bit more. You've made me appreciate it a bit more as well. So, but that's why we have these talks. So
that's cool. Yeah. I could have taken a bit more gore. I had a few quibbles on it, and obviously, we talked about disliking the ending. I'd have liked to be a lot more unsettled. I really liked the barrels scene, and as I said, I tried to hold my breath in it. I found the way it directed focus around the room during that filled the time amazingly. But it's more tense and dread building than going for big scares. So,
I have to say I preferred the ice pick and whip scene to the barrel one personally. I thought when it came to kind of moral and psychological and how is this game working questions, that was kind of the peak round for that. But I mean, well, we all have our opinions. I'll let T-Bug.
Yeah, go for it, that crime guy. I'm not going to dead name you.
Sorry, I sort of missed a bit of that. Sorry, what was the last bit?
We're basically just summarising our thoughts on the film, but a proper horror show. Really like the barrel scene for tension and psychological questioning, and I preferred the ice pick and whip one. So
for me, the barrel was one of the big ones. The ice pick as well. I had issues with that, just because of the fact that they could have just stabbed on the outside of the leg and not bothered with malarkey. But I mean, in terms of recommendations, I'd recommend this film. Sort of as I mentioned to you guys, I might have even mentioned it on the stream last time, but a few years ago, me and my wife would do this thing regularly where we would like rent cheap movies off of the old cinemas, and we would refer to it as mugging ourselves off because we would know that the films we were renting were going to be bad, but at least we were going to have fun watching them. And when we picked Would You Rather all those years ago, this was one of the films that we were expecting to be an awful film. So Right and Royally get mugged off. And actually we walked away from this film like, this was actually pretty good. And that was the only film that had done that.
I love mugging yourself off. It makes me really happy.
I again, listen, no film is perfect. Every film has its flaws. This doesn't have like the multi-blockbuster budgets that some, films do. But I think for the concept, for what it is, it's worth a watch.
Yeah, the way I was thinking about this film before I came on, it's kind of I kind of said to myself, I think you may as well watch Saw, but because Saw kind of gets you asking similar questions, especially for some of the traps where there are two people, and he does say, "Would you rather save yourself or the other?" I think Saw does that better, especially because I think Saw gives you a tiny bit more of a backstory to these people, and it's got the gore part to it. But you got me thinking about the questions a bit more than I initially had. I think what this film could have done with was just more character development, because all you really had was Iris, and because Julian just kind of felt like a rapey plot device.
He was interesting thematically. He brought that in and he shook it up, and I like the sadistic little sod. But I recommend it. I find generally this is very underseen, but it wins people over who've seen it. I mean, the cast I absolutely love. I think it's a brilliant little cast of character actors, and it's got those big moments. I like horror that has big moments. I'm a sucker for that. So
the
it's a strong recommendation for me.
I wouldn't say it's a strong recommendation for me, but it's not like I'm saying avoid it. I'd recommend it, but I mean, I've preferred other films, and it's definitely better than Alive.
This is probably a franchise which potentially could get better with a sequel or two.
Yeah, definitely.
Learn from the mistakes of this one.
Yeah,
like Empire says actually in the chat, the premise is great, but it could have been made better. I completely agree. That the whole Would You Rather scenario is an existential life crisis moment, especially the conditions, the rules they set. It's done well in that regard. But definitely needs.
Could go for all of that.
It definitely needs expanding on.
Yeah, definitely.
Give it more runtime.
Yeah, this is one where there is a lot of room to go into for the sequel. And they could be creative, because I think they were creative with this one. They really showed you where things were going from the start, and they twisted it enough to keep you interested without breaking their premise.
I don't know. I don't know how relevant this might be to you, Proper Horror Show, or I don't know if you've played it, Teabag, but this feels like it could get the Titanfall treatment. So to give that a bit more context, Titanfall 1 came out and it was kind of underdeveloped. It was basically just a multiplayer game, but with a really cool concept of, you're either running around the map as a pilot or you get this massive mech to go in. And then Titanfall 2 came out with a single player, and it's basically regarded as, a pinnacle video game. I get the feeling that this has the concept to be pinnacle horror. This film just didn't quite make the cut for that. Well, I say didn't quite. It didn't make the cut for it. Like Titanfall didn't make the cut for being the best first-person shooter of all time. So it's just I get the feeling it could get that treatment because I'm trying to give this, give the premise its due. Give this film its due. It's got a really good premise and good idea. It's just the execution wasn't quite there, and I don't think it necessarily needs a big budget to manage that. So
no, and I'm as I've said before, especially in reference to like the slasher films, I'm absolutely fine with something being done and just sort of refined, even if it's almost like a stealthy remake. Just sort of, yeah, that worked pretty well this time, but let's change it up a bit. I'm pretty much okay with that. So I would happily prequel or sequel this and let them do things. I did note from interviews that they put this together actually very quickly. And
that's probably why they got a porn star in. We need an actress. Oh, I've seen her before. She's good.
You really want to get the sort of diverse audience groups in. So, how can we really attract that Kuma demographic?
Yeah.
All right. That's great stuff. Okay, folks. We've got our takes and I think a pretty deep dissection of Would You Rather there. That is the longest we've ever gone. I'm chuffed. I'm impressed with this. And thanks for everyone sticking around and watching.
It's interesting. Yeah, it's interesting how I think we went on for an hour more on this than we did for Blind Manor, which was a series. and I loved a lot more. Yeah.
We're twisted little pigeons. What can I say? We like the vibe on this.
Yeah.
I should probably round off now, so I'll give a big thank you, of course, to Haryan and the newly named That Crime Guy.
Thank you.
And folks, if you want to sort of say a little thing, obviously, I'm a big fan of both of your channels.
So, the video I'm planning to make tomorrow is on Jordan Peterson being incorporated into Red Skull from Captain America. It was going around today because I found an article where the writer of that comic basically explains why he's going to start writing Captain America comics. So I've not read it yet, but I imagine it will be an interesting premise for a video. So I've definitely got that one on. Plus whatever else annoys me this week. Plus laughing at the Guardian of the Weekend that I need guests for. So I'll work on that this week. You two might end up being asked, but see how it goes.
Nice. So I'm now That Crime Guy. So there'll be a new video coming out this week. So definitely keep an eye out for that one. And I will just leave you with this. Would you rather help me get to 500 subscribers as I'm only 8 away, or would you leave me floating on 492 forever?
So I'm going to unsubscribe from you.
No.
Yeah. Okay. Massive play out. Let's. Okay. Both That Crime Guy and I are within 10 of crossing 100 barrier. So if you're watching, do us a favor, share this to someone who will like it. Give the good word. Tell them to give us a sub. Give us all a sub if they aren't already done it. That's your good deed. That's part of your horror homework.
Yeah.
We all want to cross 100 barrier.
I've just refreshed my subscribers and I've just rolled over 7,800. So do it for those two as well.
Nice.
Good one.
Thank you.
All right. And the actual horror homework, I see people have requested it. I see Richard and Empire 2.0 have asked. I know Gently Benevolent have asked. I cannot confirm as ever. I will try and confirm tomorrow. I have a film listed, but I haven't got it confirmed with Haryan or That Crime Guy, and it's a one will be quite harsh on, I think. So I don't know if I want to go that way or if I want to go for something higher quality and a lot scarier. So I'm going to discuss it and decide, and I will announce it as soon as I can. But you will get plenty of advance warning so you can watch it.
Excellent.
Awesome. That's fine. I usually watch these on Monday anyway, so it's fine.
Nifty. Okay, well, that Yeah, Richard, I share it on Minds and I share it on Twitter, so I'm on both those platforms. And
1 hour
enjoying that, so you
photo.
can find me there.
Empire. 1 hour photo. What we saying?
Oh man, we want to get Empire. We're trying to get Sargon on to discuss Candyman. We need it.
Oh,
Richard,
mate.
I think that's the one we can reel the big man in on. Anyway, I'm liking the suggestions. I think we are eventually going to do. We will have to go with a chat suggestion, as long as you don't get too trolly, guys. All right, but that is going to be all for this week. Again, renewed thanks to Haryan and That Crime Guy, and to everyone watching live and on the replay. I hope you enjoyed it. I highly recommending Would You Rather, and thanks, y'all.